Choose life, choose a job, choose a career, choose a family, choose a fucking big television, choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players and electrical cylinders. Choose a podcast, choose the Untitled Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Untitled Film Podcast. I am your host Mike, and with me is my co-host Mr. Peake.
How you doing, Mike? All right?
I am just fine. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Since the Avengers episode.
Yeah, I know we're a little bit late with this podcast, guys, so I do apologise for that. As a schedule issue, it's my fuck up. We were supposed to record, was it last week or the week before? And I just got the dates mixed up, and then I realised I had something else on for when we rescheduled, and I was just like, fuck. So it's my fault. If anyone wants to, give us shit, then point it in my direction and not in yours. So I'll take full responsibility for this.
This is the thing when life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah. It's one of them. It can be hard. This is why people kind of. I suppose this is why we lost touch in the first place, because it's like you say, life does get in the way. If you're not working with, we used to work together, and then we kind of moved and went. Yeah, we drifted apart, kind of thing. You just lose touch, and then next thing you know, fucking 15 years go by, and you're kind of like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think it was because a few times I think I searched for him on Facebook over the years, thinking he's on the Mike Lister, and never popped up or anything like that. And then I think I saw your picture one time. I thought that must be him there, so I added you, and then I kind of didn't really speak to you as such, but.
No, it was just one of those where you had someone, and then you just kind of always accepted, and then that's it. You just carry on with your life, kind of thing, and.
Yeah, and then I think as time went on, we kind of got talking again, didn't we? And that's it.
But this is it. It's so easy just to kind of us sitting down for a couple hours and just having a bit of a chinwag over films. That's the basis of this podcast, just so we don't lose touch again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the last couple of weeks have just proven how easy it is just to not be able to set aside those couple of hours. Just because of one thing or another, and something slips your mind, or you've got work commitments or family commitments and shit like that, and it's just it can be so tricky just to kind of just make a little bit of time just to have a conversation with someone that you want to catch up with and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So moral of the story, guys: if you've lost touch with someone, try and get back in touch with them and have a chat, and maybe start a podcast or whatever. And then that way you'll realise that it is a tricky beast to set aside a couple hours and turn your phone off, and might not shout at me for being late with this podcast. So my bad.
Yeah, for the people who don't know as well, that we obviously we'll come on at a certain time and we'd record and stuff like that, but we always come on and we always chat for about a good 40 minutes before we actually hit record.
Yeah, everything that we could kind of put in the podcast, really, a bit of a chit, because it's all related to the podcast kind of thing, and it's like, I really should have saved that for the podcast, but fuck it, never mind.
I think maybe next time we just hit record from the start kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just
add them as deleted scenes at the end of the podcast, or outtakes or something like that. Yeah, that's more work for me. Okay,
I'm
fair
sure
enough.
people might enjoy that anyway.
They probably won't, depending on what we're talking about. So, because sometimes it's just mindless waffle, isn't it? So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to it, because, like I said, it has been a while. The last podcast was our mammoth 4-hour Avengers-thon, and we kind of just wanted to pour our thoughts and feelings out after watching that film. So we didn't really do the normal format where we just kind of catch up on what we've been watching since the last podcast and all that kind of shit. So it has been a while. So what have you been kind of watching around event? Because obviously the Avengers is the big thing that's come out recently, but
I've not been to the cinema and watched anything since the Avengers. Since I watched that, so I've just been catching up with films that I've not seen for quite a while. I've been digging about to the DVD library, thinking I might watch that for a bit, and so I've watched that one. So it's been I'll go through a few anyway. So The Bride of Chucky, I've not watched that for about 6, 7, 8 years or something like that. Anyway, so I just thought, I'll go on one night. I just thought I could be watching something. I've not seen it for a bit.
Is that just because of the new Chucky film that's due out?
I think maybe because I saw the trailer for the new film, and I thought,
What are your thoughts on?
I'm not feeling it because is it directed by? Is it?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think it is. No,
I don't even know if it's voiced by Brad. Is it Brad Dourif?
Brad Dourif, yeah. This is the thing. It's kind of like if you gonna because this is like a reboot. It looks like to me. It doesn't look like a sequel or it's carrying on in the main continuity. But it seems.
This is where I'm confused because this is coming out as a reboot, and then I'm sure that Don Mancini,
he was working on a TV show or something.
The TV series come out, so he's directed that, but it's also got Brad Dourif voicing Chucky again in the TV series. So you're like, hang about. So do we need this reboot really when the CB series is coming, which it continues from the original set of films?
Yeah, and just it all feels a little bit off with this new film because like the doll is called Buddy now instead of Chucky, but in the trailer, Chucky is still kind of like name dropped in there. So is it Chucky or is it Buddy or what is going on with it? It just seems.
Is it going back to the horror roots?
Fuck knows, mate. It seems like it's going back to like a single mother with her kid, and they somehow get this doll, and it seems like it's going to be similar to like the first film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
where it's just kind of like a small family, and they get this doll, and it tries to fucking murder them.
Yeah.
Beyond, because the trailer isn't really giving much away. But what it is giving away just seems like muddled because like he's not called Chucky, but he is called Chucky, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah,
and I saw a picture online the other day of what this doll is supposed. It's supposed to be like this leaked picture of what the new doll looks like facially, and it looks horrific, mate. If it's what it's actually going to look like, it looks really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about skipping it, to be honest with you. I think I'll check out the TV series.
Yeah.
But I think I'll skip this reboot.
What did you think of like Bride of Chucky when you revisited that then?
It's not aged too bad actually. I thought the look of Chucky, the the animatronics on Chucky and stuff, how he moves, doesn't seem too bad actually, considering it's like 1998. I think it is, or 99. The film. That's aged pretty well.
Right, I'm gonna stop you. Sorry, I'm gonna stop you in the flow of this. I've just Googled, because this is how professional this podcast is. I've just Googled the 2019 Child's Play. Mark Hamill is doing the voice of Chucky.
Oh, there you go, Skywalker.
Yeah. So is he? I mean, I know he's like hailed as the Joker and
the Joker, yeah.
But it's just, is it stunt casting? If you're gonna get someone on the level of Mark Hamill, just get Brad Dourif back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be connected though in a way. I mean,
no, because the kid is called Andy Barclay.
Oh, right. So it's not as though maybe they could do a sequel and tie it up with Chucky kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's a reboot.
A modern version.
Yeah, it's just a reboot. It's
It's not in continuation with the original films.
I feel even worse about this now, and it's directed by a guy called Lars Klevberg. Never heard of him. No. Never heard of him. He doesn't have his own.
He sounds like he should be. He sounds like a character from The Thing, the remake. Or these the Swedish Norwegians.
Yeah. Which could be a good thing because you've got some decent horror films like Let the Right One In.
Yeah.
That come from over there. I'm just looking at his director credits now. A short video, a short, and a film called Polaroid, which is an expansion of his short film. Okay, I've got no faith in this. I'll probably check it out just to see how much of a car crash it is, but
I mean, it might be good, but then again, I'm expecting it to be bad because I'm a fan of the Chucky films, so I mean the Brad Dourif films, so I don't think this is going to go down very well with the diehard fans.
No, it seems like they're taking all of the turns to kind of alienate the original fans by not casting Brad Dourif, by not having Don Mancini come back and direct it. But I think Don Mancini's quite happy playing in because obviously he came up with it. It's his universe kind of thing. He wrote and directed the original film. I think he's quite happy playing in the low budget kind of things because he did that Bride of Chucky, then there was Seed of Chucky, then there was
Curse of Chucky,
then Cult of Chucky. So he likes having those really ultra low budget kind of horror films where no one's there to fuck around with his vision. He can just make the film that he wants because the budget is low enough where the studio's like, well, there's your money, doesn't really mean anything, fill your boots kind of thing, and he gets to tell the story that he wants. Because I watched Cult of Chucky and I thought, for a low budget horror film, it was pretty good. I kind of enjoyed it. And
it'd be nice to see which way they take it from how that ended as well. With Chucky, because he's gone into his daughter's body, hasn't he? Yeah.
I mean, they don't feel anything like the early Child's Play films at all.
No,
they've gone in. They've gone completely left of field, like with the story that they're telling now. But it's kind of kooky in that Bubba Hotep kind of way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But do you know which is the one before the Cult? Was it Curse of Chucky? I thought that was kind of like a reboot. It felt more horror.
Because it brought Andy Barclay back in, didn't it?
He right at the end, though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So right at the end.
It's like an Easter egg where he gets a parcel and it's...
That set it up for the following film, didn't it? Cult of Chucky, yeah. But the Curse, I thought it was more horror based. It was taking it back to the roots of like the original film.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Bride of Chucky, it's not too bad. You know what I mean? It's more of it's gone more comical into the series.
Yeah, because it's brought in like Jennifer Tilly. Is it Jennifer Tilly?
Jennifer Tilly, yeah.
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 So there's a little bit of kind of like banter between her and Chucky, because they've got this kind of like abusive relationship and very twisted kind of like romance between those two, and just to see it play out with a couple of like Chucky dolls.
Yeah, I think
one of which is...
I think as well. I think Chucky in this film, I think this is where it becomes like he gets his cult following, doesn't it? Because he's so comedic.
Yeah, I think this is like with these films. This is where they've taken like Chucky and they've made him into like the later stage Freddy Krueger, where they're kind of like they're having fun with him. He's less of a horror kind of icon and more of kind of like a just a comedic kind of killer.
Yeah.
Cracking wise, and he always had a sense of humour. From like Child's Play 2 on. We didn't really have much of a sense of humour in Child's Play 1, but Child's Play 2, that he always kind of like had a bit of a sense of humour with these one-liners and shit like that.
Yeah, and then
it feels like when they got to this point, they really kind of like cranked it up.
Yeah.
This for me is kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street 3, 4, 5 onward, where Freddy became less of like this feared child killer who kills you in your dreams, and more of this kind of like comedic wisecracking serial killer. So
yeah,
which it fits Chucky more in a way than what it did with Freddy, but I find them enjoyable. They're kind of like there's not really much substance to them, but I find these films enjoyable for what they are.
Yeah, they're that kind of film. I think you can maybe go 5, 6, 7, 8 years or something without watching them like I did, and then revisit something. I think you appreciate them a little bit more. I don't think you watch them every once a year.
I don't remember liking Seed of Chucky that much. I think
that
one
kind
kind
of little boy.
Yeah, with was it Billy Boyd who did the voice of whatever the kid's name was?
Was he a boy? Then he ended up becoming a girl at the end or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Was it Glenn or something's name?
Glenn and Glenda. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I didn't like that one.
Yeah, I think it started all right, and then it just veered off, didn't it?
Something felt very off about that one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Compared to, I think Bride of Chucky's probably the best one they've done. I think, but I like number 3 myself. I think because just the humour in that's pretty good as well. And Chucky, he's very good in that film.
Oh, you're in a minority with that one, because that one was blamed for setting off the Jamie Bulger thing. Yeah.
Well, we're not getting to that anyway, but...
Yeah, let's not touch that one.
Yeah, so moving on from Bride of Chucky anyway.
Moving on quickly, swiftly, moving on.
Yeah, moving on quick is... I've seen this before anyway, a few times now, but I saw it in CX the other day, and I've got the... I've got the first 2 films in the set, and then I've got the original.
We should be fucking sponsored by CEX by the amount of plugs that you give them.
No, yeah.
And the amount of money that you give them. Yeah. Just like, I saw it in CEX, and it was 50p, and I just couldn't pass it up. So
yeah, well, that was it. I think Brad Chucky was 50p. Something like that. That's why I got that.
There you go.
Yeah, but War Planet of the Apes, anyway, this is the one I picked up recently. From CX, it was there, and I thought, well, I've got the first 2 films, and I've got the originals, and I'm missing that one. And I think War of the Planet of the Apes, and all of them actually. Equally did the 70s ones. Are really good films. I know you're not a fan of the 70s films.
I'm not. No, and I didn't expect to like the reboot because I had no kind of like connection or affection for the originals. I could never get past, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because my first exposure to the Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes, was the TV show.
Oh yeah.
When I was a kid, living back up in Sunderland, I remember it being on. I remember watching it on like a Sunday morning, like between 10 and 11 o'clock on Channel 4.
Yeah, I think it used to be on. Was it after Land of the Giants?
Yeah, because they would rotate those kind of 60s and 70s sci-fi TV shows on a Sunday morning on Channel 4. So it would be something like Lost in Space or Land of the Giants or what was that thing with the submarine and I can't remember. But and Planet of the Apes, the TV show, was one of these just on rotation, and I couldn't get past the special effects because the special effects in the TV show were shoddy. You know, the masks that they used, and you could see the lips moving behind the actual mask lips and all that kind of stuff. And then when I was a little bit older, I think I watched the first Planet of the Apes when not long before I started working at the cinema. Yeah, because I never had any kind of like affection for them. I was just kind of like, oh, it's that. And I remember watching, the first film probably around about 96, 97, and it had zero effect on me because I couldn't get past how kind of dated it looked, and the twist was not really a twist. I wasn't bothered about it at all.
Yeah, maybe the fact is you probably if you watch it as a kid, maybe you might have appreciated it a bit more. But
possibly,
you probably always had flashbacks to the TV series, said that dodgy bit.
Exactly, I couldn't get past the TV show. I couldn't get past it, and I was just like, no, I'm not. I had no interest in it whatsoever.
Yeah, I've got the TV show on DVD, and it's not that good actually. It seems to be. I mentioned it in the WhatsApp message group anyway. Chris Manning and said that every episode seems to be the human survivors will go save a village or something like that from the apes or help them out. I don't know, they need like a windmill making or something like that, or they can't get water. They'll get water into the.
That's not what you need when you've got a podcast recording, is it? So, I tell you what, we're just going to take a small little break here. I'm going to pause it and then we'll come back. Okay, and we're back. I apologise for that. That's a podcast first. The dog going absolutely scatty at the postman, but that is one of the risks that you take when you record in the morning. So, Wolfie, bad boy, get down, get out, go away, leave me alone. I think we should be okay now. I'm not expecting any more knocks at the door or postman or anything like that.
Yeah.
Wait, Planet of the Apes and how shit the TV show was.
Yeah, I was saying like every episode seems to be pretty much the same, where the humans.
Yeah, formulaic and not really much.
I can't remember how many episodes there now, but every episode seems to be pretty much the same. But yeah, just going back to the reboot from about 10 years ago, was it, or something like that? Really enjoyed it. I watched it at the cinema. Really enjoyed it. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was the sequel to The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the reboot. Really enjoyed that. Thought that was a cracker. And then watched War of the Planet of the Apes. Loved it. Thought again, brilliant. And then I saw it in CX and just thought, I need that one for my collection. So I picked it up on 3D. We're not going to 3D again because we've done that to death, haven't we? We bitched about it.
We're probably gonna talk about 3D when we get onto the main film that we're talking about this week.
But as I say, I watched Planet of the Apes and I watched it in 3D, War of the Planet of the Apes, and really enjoyed it. I thought the 3D give it something, but I've always said that I kind of got something more out of 3D watching it on my own TV than at the cinema with these modern films. I kind of like I felt like I've been pulled in more watching it at home in my little games room here than sat in the cinema screen.
Yeah, I like the rebooted trilogy. I thought War was probably the best you could ask for in the sense of it ending the actual story of Caesar. It's very rare that you get like a story with a character that's told from literally like his birth all the way through to his death kind of thing, and it's not stretched out to be multiple installments of the same franchise over and over again. This was something that started very kind of like small and humbly with the first, was it Rise of? Rise
Dawn was the sequel.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes, yeah, and then it was Dawn of the Planet of the. Too many ofs in these. But it was one of those I saw, you know, they were remaking it, and Andy Serkis was involved, you know, with the motion capture performance for Caesar. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll go and watch it. And I was completely floored by the first film because about that time, I just had lost my granddad to cancer. And I wasn't expecting kind of like the emotional heft around the scene where John Lithgow's character, spoilers, you know, succumbs to Alzheimer's. I thought that was, you know, really kind of like powerful, and obviously I was in the kind of mind frame to be, for lack of a better word, exploited by those, you know, feelings there, you know, just lost kind of like a father figure in my life, and that film hit me so fucking hard, it was unreal. For something that was just supposed to be kind of like, you know, a dumb reboot of, you know, this revered sci-fi classic of the 60s and 70s. And then, you know, Dawn came by and just took everything that was in the first film and just dialed it up and became, you know, something that actually meant something, you know, and had an actual story to tell. And then by the time War came around, I was kind of completely invested in Caesar as a character. And to say that he's predominantly just like pixels on a screen, the amount of emotion, or the range of emotion that Andy Serkis is able to convey with that kind of digital makeup that they put on him, was just absolutely phenomenal. It's one of my favourite trilogies of all time.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Yeah, and going back and looking at the first film now, the CG in comparison to where they get to in War for Planet of the Apes, the CG is a little bit kind of like rough around the edges, and you know, Caesar, his fur and all this kind of stuff is a little bit, you know, a little bit ropey by today's standards, especially where you look at where they got to, you know, with the special effects in War for Planet of the Apes. But my God, that the effects in that film are absolutely jaw-dropping.
Yeah, I agree.
It just looks so real. You know, it looks like they've got chimps and they're, you know, delivering dialogue and, you know, carrying weapons and riding horses and everything that goes with it. It's just amazing trilogy. I love that trilogy so much, and you know, I really didn't expect to you know, have any kind of like reverence for those films based on the, you know, the original Planet of the Apes. But
definitely a 10 out of 10 that trilogy.
100%, for me.
So expect us probably to cover that further down the line, I think, maybe.
I would probably think that is a good shout. Yeah.
Because you say you've got a lot of fondness for that. For the
really do, yeah.
And James Franco, it's James Franco in it as well.
Yeah, that was another thing that didn't really kind of sell me on the first film. I was like, oh, fucking James Franco. He was just coming out of the, you know, the Spider-Man trilogy. And...
But he did it well.
Yeah,
did it well. He didn't return for the sequel, did he? Obviously, but...
it's one of those where you've got this kind of like jokey actor, or this actor who's known for more kind of like jokey comedic roles, like Pineapple Express and all this kind of stuff, and then you bang him into a film that's got a little bit of substance and a little bit of, you know, dramatic weight, and is a straight kind of character for them to play, and they knock it out of the park. I mean, look at what Jim Carrey did with. I know he went fucking complete nutso when he was, you know, going method with it, but Jim Carrey in Man in the Moon, the Andy Kaufman film, and to an extent I still see Truman Show as kind of like a semi-comedic character, but still,
what's your thoughts on Truman Show?
I like it. I think it's probably dated now a little, but some of the things that it was saying at the time, it was saying about reality TV, or and kind of like our fascination with watching other people, to the point where essentially that world, or, you know, that culture imprisoned a child from birth. It was kind of, you know, it was interesting in a way to see where we could potentially end up, because you can definitely see that happening. You know, Big Brother, around the time of the Truman Show, 2001, I think it was, Big Brother was a big thing, and, you know, watching other people's lives, and you know, now it's kind of evolved into this completely different beast, where you've got Snapchat, Instagram, you got, you know, Facebook stories, and people are putting their lives online, you know, it seems like 24/7, and, you know, it has evolved into a different thing. So I think Truman Show is kind of dated in in a way, because it didn't foresee that. But how could it foresee the rise of things like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of shit? But yeah, I thought at the time it was a really good film.
Yeah, me too. I mean, when was it come out? You said 2001.
I think it was like.
I don't think I watched the film until about it must easy about 10 years after release, so it's probably like 2011. I watched it something like because I've heard mixed reviews on it from day one.
Oh, I'm wrong. It was 1998, so it was before.
So it's over 10 years, well over 10 years after release. I watched it in the 12, 13 years or something. But I heard mixed, as I say, I heard mixed reviews that kind of put me off. But somebody told me, sit down and watch it, you'll really enjoy it. I think it was on Channel 5 one day or something anyway, and I sit down and watched it, enjoyed it, loved it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so moving on to the next film is another film I watched on. I think it was on Now TV. It just appeared on there. Never heard anything about it, and I just thought, all right, okay, I'll just give it a watch. And this film is called Life. It stars Ryan Reynolds and Rebecca Ferguson.
Yes.
Right. Now, I always thought very underrated.
Really?
Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah, I think this is the film what maybe Prometheus should have been.
Okay. Explain.
Well, the fact is, they found the alien species. The research on it, and it kind of it adapts itself to the shape and stuff. And there's no. I've always thought Prometheus was taken a bit too far in the the engineers and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like. I know the route they were going with Prometheus. They weren't trying to connect it to the Alien franchise, which kind of set it off a little bit, and that was the start of the Alien films. But yeah, I just think to myself for a little bit, yeah, this should have been what Prometheus should have been what Life was really.
Okay.
Yeah.
I disagree with you, but okay, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
I think this was a Sony Pictures film, and
did you watch
Sony.
This at the cinema?
No, I didn't. I watched this. I downloaded a copy at home because I saw the trailers. The trailers were not selling it for me at all, and it felt like this was. Like I mentioned, this was a Sony Pictures film, and for anyone who doesn't know, this is like a bunch of astronauts in space, in like a space station, and they capture a probe that has samples that have come back from, is it Mars?
Yes, Mars, yeah.
Yeah, so it's got, this probe's got samples from Mars, and it's actually got some kind of organism in these samples that is, alive, hence the name of the film, Life. And this felt to me like a backdoor kind of, almost like a backdoor pilot, but in feature film form for Venom. This is the film that I think should have kicked off Venom. Because the way that they come across the organism,
like a symbiote.
Yeah, it well, even the look of it feels very much like the Venom symbiote.
Yeah.
And obviously, Sony went ahead and did the Venom, movie with Tom Hardy, a few years later. But I felt like this was maybe a rejected script for what they were going to do with Venom, and obviously with it being a Sony Pictures film, I think there's maybe a little bit of weight to that we'll never really find out, because it's all done behind closed doors. But yeah, I didn't think it had anything about it really. I thought I'd seen it all before. I think it was hoping to do better than what it did, because at this point Ryan Reynolds was coming off the high from Deadpool, and yeah, I just
Ryan Reynolds is not in it, is he? For that long, he
exactly. But if you watch the trailers,
he
croaks it pretty early on. But if you watch the trailers, it is the Ryan Reynolds show in space. They completely ignore the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal is kind of the main character in this film.
He's real good in it though.
Yeah,
he's real good.
Yeah.
And as well, I always got the first time I watched it as well. I got the kind of like the vibes right at the end, with the ship. He crashes on Earth, and they start coming over in the boats, and he's trapped in there with like that organism, like the alien creature.
Yeah.
He said, "Don't open the door, don't open it." And there's I think the Japanese people on the boats or something going to open up the door of the spaceship. It had it reminded me of something like Twilight Zone or something like an episode of that at end, and even you you'd never get another like a sequel to that episode or.
Yeah. It's just a one-off, a one-shot story. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what would happen now, kind of thing.
See, this one for me had that twist ending at the end where I felt shortchanged by the twist. I felt like the twist was not earned. It was just kind of like it. In a way, yeah, you're probably right. It was one of those.
You mean what when you crash onto Earth? Or do you mean the two spaceships when you which?
Yeah, where it's pulling it pulls a red herring on you, and it's kind of like this isn't gonna go how you think. It felt a little bit unearned and kind of like. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Whatever. It didn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
Flashy bangs and it looks good and shot very well, looks sleek and everything's shiny and all that kind of shit. But it didn't really do anything for me. And I think it comes from me feeling like this is too similar to what a Venom film should have been or started out as and that kind of shit. But yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I think it's maybe because I stumbled across it one day and I thought, yeah, okay, I'll give that a watch. And I expected it to be the Ryan Reynolds shows you just touched on then.
Yeah.
But you say he quotes it early on, and you're left with like the rest of the cast, and they all do it pretty well. And it was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. I expected him to be the hero, and and he's totally not.
And if you're gonna name like an aggressive like symbiote species, don't give it a name like Calvin.
Yeah.
That's a bit too cute and cuddly.
Yeah,
Calvin. Just a little scamp.
Was it that little kid on Earth? He named him Calvin, didn't he? So, but he just needed something out of Calvin. Just in. Where's Calvin now? Calvin's in the air duct kind of thing, guys.
Yeah.
Calvin's working his way to us. Oh shit, Calvin's coming. Oh.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I'm glad you did. So yeah, it's one of them. Anything else?
Well, and the other one was. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, the 1972, is it, or something like? It's around that time anyway. It's the early 70s one.
Yeah, the Tobe Hooper one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, just because I was going through the horror section of DVDs and I thought I've not seen that for a bit, so when I put that on, it's not aged that well anyway. But I don't think it is. It's held up anyway over time in general. Yeah.
I was saying to you off mic, I think this is one of those films that's got a kind of an undeserved reputation, and I could be completely wrong by that statement. I probably will be derided for being completely wrong, but it's one of those that I've never really had any kind of connection to this franchise. I've always thought they were shit, exploitative shit,
including the modern remake reboots.
Aside from Jessica Biel, who looks fantastic in like the first reboot,
was it something?
Yeah, something like that. No, and Leah Ermi was in that as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't see why this film was such a revelation. But that said, I completely acknowledge that at the point in 1974, I was still, swimming in my dad's nuts, so I wasn't around. It's one of those, it's hard to put yourself in the mind frame of watching a film from a certain period, from before you were born, because you're not aware of any kind of like cultural milestones around there. I know Ed Gein and all of his kind of like horrific crimes were a big kind of influence on what they did with Texas Chainsaw, but one, that was, over in America. Two, like I said, I wasn't going to be born for another 7 years, so that had no impact on my life whatsoever. I don't get it. Everyone remembers this film as being like this really horrific and violent and gory film, and you go back and watch it and you're like, where's the gore? Where's the violence? I think
not... maybe when it came out back in the 70s, like you said, it was probably ahead of its time. So like people around that time that had never seen anything like this, so it came out. But obviously we've seen things a lot worse than this now, so when you read it, I think it's pretty terrible.
I think it's one of those films that kind of like the word of mouth on the film kind of snowballed to the point where it's become hailed as this kind of like classic of American horror. Fuck's sake!
Wolfie, is that it again?
Stop now. Jesus Christ, will people stop putting things through my postbox today? Settle down. there's some films where I go back and I watch them and they're kind of like revered as classics, and you're like, is this really a classic of film, or is it just people misremembering it as being something more than what it actually is? Yeah, I don't get the entire franchise. I think they're all shit.
It's the one with Dennis Hopper. Is it number 2, that one?
I think that was the second one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember Matthew McConaughey was in like the Next Generation with
4 or
Renee
5.
Zellweger. And, he was just fucking crazy in that film, to the point that where I turned it off and never went back to it. I was like, I can't watch this film. And these films actively make me want to turn them off. Not because they're so frightening or horrific or gory, it's just because they're so bad. They are just so inherently bad films from top to bottom.
Yeah, they've not aged well.
The first one is certainly not aged well. I understand it was like a massively kind of like low budget film. That's such an oxymoron to use in that term, but it's such a small budget, and it became this juggernaut for some reason. And I don't understand it at all. So yeah.
We're moving on anyway.
Yeah, fuck those films from me.
Yeah, so I dug that out because I'd not watched it for a bit, and it was.
Is that the only one that you've got? Or have you got like more?
No, I've got that one and one of the recent remakes kind of thing in 3D. It's just called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
The girl, she was in the TV series, True Detective. There was a girl, a woman. Oh, she was in the Percy Jackson. Was it that lightning thing?
Oh, the chick with the big tits that was in the Baywatch remake. Alexandra Daddario.
Yeah, she gets a tit set, don't she, in that True Detective, I think, with Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
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 I think that's the one I've got on 3D Blu-ray, but I've not even watched it yet.
Right, okay.
I've had it for a while.
They brought Gunnar Hansen back in that one, didn't they? He had a cameo in that one, if I remember right.
Oh, right. I mean,
I'm sure.
From what I don't think I've seen that one with Matthew McConaughey. I don't think I've seen that one, the Next Generation one.
Really don't, mate. Seriously,
no, I've seen it in the
I know you like.
it.
I know you like your kind of like cheesy, crappy horror films, but even that one is beyond like your taste. It's not. There's just no redeeming features of that film whatsoever.
Yeah, okay.
Matthew McConaughey. Someone has pulled Matthew McConaughey to one side and said, "Let's just go full tilt."
Yeah,
and he goes full tilt to the point where it's like, was he high? Was he on drugs? Because it just.
Did he need the money? Did he get offered?
Maybe, mate.
In that role? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just so over the top and just kind of like he's going full tilt bonkers in that one. It's just
the one with Jessica Biel's decent though. That reboot, that's quite good. That one.
It's hard to be mad at Jessica Biel when she's going around in a kind of like damp tank top and
tight jeans. You can see like shape of her ass proper.
But, she's
that's the most decent one. But didn't they do a sequel to that? Like a continuation for that one, was it?
Probably. It's been rebooted like 3 times now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've lost track of which reboots I've got. I'm sure it's that one with the girl from True Detective.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on anyway. And just one more actually I forgot to mention.
Go.
I was going through like my DVD collection. I thought, I need to watch something like from the time I watched it when I worked at the cinema. I could have picked out like a load of different films, but I chose one. It's a Wes Craven film directed by Wes Craven called There. Don't know if you remember the poster or when was it at the cinema?
I really don't.
Yeah, it's a girl. She has night terrors. Like these creatures that come from the night, from being a kid, and they carry on.
And this was on at the Flicks while I was working there.
Yeah, 2002. I think it was 2003. Yeah, I remember putting the poster out in the poster cases. Yeah.
Did this go straight into like screen 7 or something?
Yeah, it was like screen 5 or something. Like, it weren't one of the big screens. It was a small one. Unless they did go into a big screen and they just do like one like I don't know, one weekend or something. They ditched it into a small screen.
To quote Gandalf, I have no memory of this. No memory whatsoever. Yeah. Did he actually direct it?
A Wes Craven film, it says. I'm just reading the back.
That probably means fuck all, mate. I reckon it's just a produced by. Let me Google it.
Yeah, have a quick Google. Google's back on the scene again.
2002, directed by Robert Harmon. I don't recognise that poster. The only thing I can think of, mate, is if I had a week off and it was one of those films that came in for a week and fucked off.
I recognise the poster because I put it out, and I'm sure I bought. I was going through that time. I was bringing on posters, taken from the poster room. I think this is one of them. What I brought back with me.
No, until this moment, mate, I've never heard of this film.
Never heard of it. All right.
I only recognise one name in the cast, and that's Mark Blucas, he of Buffy the Vampire Slayer fame.
Yeah, and do you remember in Final Destination 2, there's like a guy, he gets cut in half, I think it's on
by the barbed wire?
By the barbed wire, yeah. He's a bit of a smoking spliffs all the time and stuff. Got long hair, gets cut by the barbed wire. He's in it as well. It's like he's as a main actor's mate. Kind of plays the same character actually. Like, hi's a kite.
They've just taken the same character and plonked him into a different film.
Yeah.
Yeah, never heard of it before. I'm just reading about it now. Doesn't make for a good podcast. Wes Craven served as an executive producer. Okay, there you go. Oh, yeah. So it's one of those where, you know, Wes Craven was at that point in his career. Same as John Carpenter. It was kind of like they got to a point where these horror masters started producing a load of shit horror films that would never get any sway on their own. So they decided to attach kind of like a, you know, recognizable name in the horror genre to the posters. And Wes Craven Presents, he had a lot of those films. Wes Craven Presents this, and Wes Craven Presents They, and, you know, it's just yeah, I don't think I would is it worth a watch in your opinion? Or
in my opinion, yeah. Right, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I know how to take your opinion when it comes to these kind of horror films. Okay, fair enough. All right. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one.
It's, like I said, I think it's a friend actually. I think he's a young boy. Starts off and he's having these night terrors, these creatures coming from him out of his closet.
Right.
They kind of look like what can I say? Something like a face hugger, something small like that. Little creatures, will come out to the closet for you. Anyway, I think she starts having them when she gets older. That they're coming back for her. And
I have absolutely no memory of this. Yeah. I must have been on holiday when this came out because I'm just.
It's 2002 anyway. I just checked that it is 2002, and we were there for 2000. Well, I was there 2002. 2003. So it definitely when we were there because it was around the time when that Darkness Falls came out. That one with the Tooth Fairy.
I remember that one. Yeah.
So it's around that
time.
That
also had a Buffy the Vampire Slayer alumni in there as well.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Played
I'm sure. Have you seen Silent Hill? The movie.
Have I? I've seen bits. I don't think I've sat down and watched it. I've never owned it. Certainly never owned it on DVD.
Yeah, I'm sure the young girl in Silent Hill, she stars in there as well. Only briefly, but I think she makes like a brief appearance.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's been rated 4.8, 4.9 in Internet Movie Database. So
okay,
it's I enjoy it anyway.
Okay,
it's an easy watch.
Right. Fair enough. There's
thousands of people now googling. Internet Movie Database.
Well, if you just put in they in there, you're not going to get anywhere, guys. So put they and then Wes Craven at the side. You might get something. Yeah.
Right, well, Mike, we'll have to. What have you been watching?
Okay, so I mean, because we didn't really get into it with the Endgame, there's been quite a few. I don't think I've discussed Shazam on the podcast, have I?
No, you've not, no.
Yeah, went and watched Shazam when that came out. The latest DC, I'm not going to say latest and greatest, but the latest DC movie.
Is this any connection to the Batman Superman franchise?
There is a very loose connection in the fact that it uses props and imagery from Batman v Superman. It's distance itself in the fact that it doesn't take a dark tone or anything like that. This is going very much down the Marvel, the Marvel kind of like family comic book film. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It fell somewhere in the middle. It's enjoyable. I'll give it that. Moments of it, at least, are enjoyable. It feels a little bit small.
All right. In what way?
In that it's telling this kind of big, bombastic, story about wizards and all this kind of shit and magic. It goes. Shazam is kind of a character who's very similar in power set to Superman, but his power is derived from magic as opposed to being an alien from Krypton.
Yeah.
So he can fly. He's got super strength, and he can summon lightning and move really fast and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I just don't like where DC is going with its characters. I can't gel with it. For me, DC should have embraced the more adult side of things. I know it got a lot of shit for Batman v Superman being too dark, and let's not even get into Justice League because they just screwed the pooch on that big time.
What about Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad's just shit. It really is. It's all style over substance, and the style that's there's just kind of messy.
Yeah,
it's not even.
What do you mean? Keep it like the same tone as like the Dark Knight?
I think they should have set out the blueprint of what they wanted to go for with a more grounded universe with a little bit more kind of realistic characters with Man of Steel, and I think they should have stood by the courage of the convictions that they had when they made that film, and they should have carried on with that instead of bowing to fan pressure immediately and doing Batman v Superman. And then not only that, but as soon as they bowed to the fan pressure and they were like, oh, the fans are going to love this, we're giving them Batman and Superman for the first time fighting each other, and then they got cold feet and they decided to cut out almost an hour of the film. If you go back and watch Batman v Superman, the ultimate cut, it's a much better. It's not a great film by any stretch, but it's a much better film than what you got in the theatres with the theatrical cut. And then moving on from that, they really shit the bed with Justice League, with everything that happened with that, to the point of firing. I know, the whole tragedy with Zack Snyder's daughter happened in the middle of that, and blah blah blah. So they replaced him with Joss Whedon. But if you read into it, it seems like Zack Snyder didn't so much leave the film because of a personal tragedy, more the fact that they used that personal tragedy to actually push him off the production.
Oh, right.
Replace him with Joss Whedon. So they just fucked up with that. This feels like DC's attempt to make a Marvel film. In the same way as Aquaman does, it feels like DC's attempt to make a Marvel film. There's more humour in it, there's more colour in it, it's bright and it's bold and it's fun and all this kind of shit. I just can't get on board with it because the characters, I don't really know that much about, Shazam as a character or Captain Marvel, which is his original name, but obviously, Captain Marvel is now a Marvel character and all this kind of shit. Whatever. There's moments that you enjoy in the film, and there's moments that I really didn't enjoy. It feels like Zachary Levi from Chuck, who plays the superhero part, is playing a different character to the kid who plays. For anyone who doesn't know, basically you've got this character Billy Batson, who's like this teenage boy, and he gets imbued with these magical powers. So when he says the word Shazam, he turns into like this superhero. But at the heart of the character, he's still a boy.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is like, he says Shazam, and he's big and strong and tall and can fly, and you've got a teenage boy as a superhero.
How did they change back? You said Shazam.
He says Shazam again. Yeah. It feels like Zachary Levi and the kid. I think it's Asher something or other. Asher Angel, I think the kid's name is. It feels like they're playing two different characters. They don't feel like the same character at all. Zachary Levi's playing it as a teenager, like, holy shit, I'm this strong fucking demigod type thing, and then when he swaps back to being a boy and the kid's playing him, he's kind of searching for his original mum because he's an orphan, so he's trying to find his mum, and he feels kind of like very dour and bitter and a little bit kind of like grumpy. And it's like, so you got this grumpy teenager, but then when he says Shazam, he's all happy and smiley and bouncing around and doing stupid things as a superhero. They don't gel together as one cohesive character for me. Mark Strong plays the villain. He's having the best time chewing the scenery. The CG is off in places, that it's back to the rubbery kind of skin texture when they're flying and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Although at the end, where I don't want to give the ending away for people who haven't seen it, but the ending is actually quite satisfying when you see multiple heroes come in and do their bits, and there is a cameo from Superman from the chest down because Henry Cavill is in contract negotiations, so they cut his face out and all this kind of shit. I'm sorry, I've just spoiled it with when I said I wasn't going to, but fuck it. It's not a great film. Some people might enjoy it. I kind of enjoyed it, but I was left feeling this is the diet version of a Marvel film, so just go and watch a Marvel film.
Which did you prefer more, Captain Marvel or Shazam?
Okay, yeah, I preferred this because I didn't like Captain Marvel at all.
Well, she signed a 7-year contract, hasn't she?
She can fuck herself.
Is it 7
She really needs to get off her high horse and stop being a cunt. She's only been signed on because they want to tie her down now while she's relatively cheap, I would say. Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I thought she was alright in Endgame. I've not seen Captain Marvel yet, but Endgame,
she was better. She was much better in Endgame.
She weren't in it much.
But she was only in it for 5 minutes.
And now 5 minutes maybe all you need.
Yeah, she had a little bit more about her. She was a little bit more likable in Endgame, but again, having a character who's not very likable in it for only 5 minutes probably helps. If she stuck around in Endgame for any longer, she probably would have annoyed me. But that's by the by. I would say I got more out of Shazam on an entertainment level than what I did out of Captain Marvel. So yeah.
Was it The Rock supposed to play Shazam?
The Rock is down to play Black Adam, who is one of the main villains.
DC.
Yeah, he's one of the villains to Shazam, so I think that's slated for the sequel, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, because I think you can get an animated feature film in there. I think it's Black Adam versus Superman or something.
Like I say, the only thing I know about Shazam comes from the Kingdom Come comic book or the graphic novel Kingdom Come, and he's kind of treated as a villain in that, as opposed to, but all of the characters are kind of subverted in Kingdom Come. So Batman is like his 60-year-old Batman. Bruce Wayne is is he paralysed or he's severely injured in it because he walks around with a metal exoskeleton so he can get around and all this kind of shit.
Nice.
And, Clark Kent is not Superman anymore. He's retired and doesn't want to get into anything. He doesn't want to interfere. It's fantastic, and the artwork by Alex Ross is phenomenal. So check out Kingdom Come. Go and read Kingdom Come instead of watching Shazam. There you go. Yeah. Moving on. Have I spoken about Hellboy? I can't remember.
No, I think we said it off, didn't we, a few times. The episode we were saying we weren't going to watch it or anything.
Yeah,
you went to watch it.
Shit.
Yeah,
Worst film of the year by far. Absolute garbage. Avoid.
I expected nothing more, actually.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah. It really is shit.
I'd rather just have a Hellboy 3, wrap that up, and then leave it there.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even give it the time of day, because the more people who check it out just out of curiosity, the more the studio will think, actually that made a little bit of money, so we'll bang a sequel out. No, fuck it, let it die. It's shit. Hopefully it'll be rebooted in a few years in a way that does it justice. Or well, they're not going to get Ron Perlman back, are they? But whatever, leave it alone. Don't touch it.
How is he to replace Ron Perlman as Hellboy?
See, the reviews I've seen after I watched it, I've read a few reviews, and they're all kind of saying David Harbour is a better Hellboy than Ron Perlman because he's got more to play with the range of emotions that his character has to go through. I didn't get any of that. I got a very one-note performance out of him. I thought he really struggled underneath the makeup. There is a scene where they kind of go back in flashback to explain like a bit of backstory for another character that Hellboy saves. So we see a younger version of the Hellboy that we have in this film, and the makeup for this younger Hellboy, I sat there thinking, this is actually a lot better design facially wise and how he looks, and Harbour's able to actually convey a little bit more kind of like expression through the prosthetics in this flashback sequence. I was like, I was sat there at this point, I was thinking, why the fuck didn't they just have Hellboy look like this for the entire film? because when we get back to the aged version of Hellboy, it looks, even though it might be a little bit more comic accurate with the bigger chin and all this kind of stuff, it just looks a bit moon-faced. It was this was a red version of Jimmy Hill. He's got a massive chin, and it didn't look right to me. But the flashback sequence, if you're ever in a movie and a scene like that happens, and you actually start consciously thinking about design choices that have been made for prosthetics or special effects or whatever it is, if something gets you thinking about that aspect of the film is an absolute failure in storytelling, because if the film is working on a basic narrative level, you're not thinking about, oh, well, that would look better. That, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the prosthetics there would look better if they just did that through the whole film, or that special effects. If anything starts making you think about a film on a technical level rather than being engrossed in the story, it's a complete fucking failure. And I think that film is a complete fucking failure. And I read again after the fact that apparently Neil Marshall, even though he's credited as director, apparently he had a massive falling out with the studio, so he had very little to do beyond shooting the film, so wasn't allowed to edit and all this kind of shit. So it sounds like something happened behind the scenes, and yeah. So,
but here's a question for you then, because obviously Hellboy's a skip it, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 70s version, skip it.
Yeah.
If you had to choose which one of them films to watch tonight, which one you choose?
I would choose to sit in complete fucking darkness, I would say, and just watch paint dry.
Go on, if you had to choose one, which one? The original Texas Chainsaw or the modern Hellboy?
Which one's shorter?
Depends which cut, and I think
whichever film is the shorter of the two, I would watch, because then my misery would not go on for so long. Yeah, that's my answer. Whichever film is shortest.
Right. Well,
yeah.
we'll check
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Texas Chainsaw is the shorter of the two films. So yeah,
and it could be the uncut version.
No, it would be the original version. No special extended, nothing. No, whichever film has the shortest runtime would be that, and that is the basis of my choice on those two. What a horrible fucking question to ask.
I had to put that there.
Yeah, which of these two films that you absolutely hate would you rather sit and watch?
Yeah. That's like saying who would you pick out of Chris O'Donnell or Jai Courtney? Which film would you watch? What they've starred in?
God.
You know what I mean? Marathon of films they've starred in. Oh God.
Fucking hell. Yeah.
We're not going there on that one anyway.
No, please let's not.
Yeah, I think so we're not going to mention them on the podcast anymore.
No. What else?
John Wick. Watch John Wick, haven't you?
I'm going to get to John Wick in a minute. Yeah, I caught up on something I missed in the cinema. A Star is Born.
Oh, yeah.
The Bradley Cooper's directorial debut with Lady Gaga.
So did he get on then? Directing debut.
Now, I've got to be honest, I've not seen any of the previous ones with, is it Barbra Streisand? And because this is one of those films that's been remade to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't seen any of those. So this is the first time that I've been exposed to this story. I don't know if this story is, the same. I'm guessing the basic premise is the same. I don't know if like the ending is the same in all of the films. So I'm just gonna go off what I've watched in this. Because I missed it in the cinemas. Everyone that I've spoken to about it, and it's not many people, granted, but I've seen reviews and I've seen things on social media and all this kind of stuff saying, oh, it's a really emotional film, and you're gonna cry at the end and all this kind of stuff. It left me a little bit cold at the end. I kind of saw where this story was going pretty early on, and I was like, yeah, there's only one way for that. So I was kind of prepared for the end, which is kind of like it's one of those films with a tragic ending, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, I saw this coming from the start. So I didn't get that emotional impact out of the end of the film that everyone kind of like had pre-warned me. Maybe it was because I'd purely because of the fact that I'd already been pre-warned that I knew something was coming, so I was looking for it and saw it.
And maybe the fact you've cried at it through the cinema once already over the past 2 months, but Endgame.
Oh Christ, that was just It was even worse the third time because you know what's coming. And it's just kind of like
So just sticking with Endgame though, actually, I appreciate the film more the times I've seen it now. So after repeated viewing, I've appreciated the film a lot more than the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I without going too far off topic, I rewatched the final episode of Game of Thrones. And I know a lot of people have kicked off about it and this, that, and the other. The first time I watched it, I enjoyed it. It didn't hit me all that hard. Then the subsequent viewing that I rewatched, it hit me harder because the pressure was off to kind of like sit and watch it, and for the first time, so you could just sit back a little bit more and sit into your chair a little bit. Yeah, deeper and just kind of like take it for what it was, and I got more kind of emotional kick out of it the second time, and it was the same with Endgame. It's kind of when I watched, because I've seen Endgame now in the cinema 3 times. Yeah, I don't, like I said to you before off mic, I don't think I'm going to go and watch it a 4th time. I think 3's enough for me because of the third time when I watched it, it just hit me like a truck. It became more powerful in a way the third time that I watched it because I know where the film is going and all this kind of stuff. So it is weird. You can go back and revisit a film and see it in a completely different light, and sometimes it'll get you a little bit more, sometimes it won't, but I think we've spoken about Endgame enough.
Yeah. So, the extra minute or two there to a 4-hour episode we did the other week.
Yeah. Well, if we're not careful, this one's probably going to go over time as well. Oh. But so I didn't get the emotional kind of like kick out of this film that everyone had warned me about. The performances are very good. I thought Bradley Cooper is doing what he does. He's actually pretty good in that.
Lady Gaga.
Surprisingly, very good overall. I would say she's pretty good in it. Yeah, there's moments where her performance is a little bit uneven. Sometimes she's really, really good, and then other times she feels a little bit more constrained in her performance. I don't know if that's just because of in some scenes she might have been given a little bit more improvisation, or other times the direction she was given was a little bit more rein it in. But sometimes she comes off as a little bit uneven in her performance, but it feels real regardless. It feels like a real kind of emotional performance that she gives. It's a good film.
Is it one of the Baldwins in this? Is it Alec Baldwin? Is he in this?
Don't think so. I don't remember him being in there. I know Dave Chappelle's in there, which I wasn't expecting. And now my next door neighbour's decided to bang on the radiator. Really? I'm recording a podcast.
Yeah, well, it's Alec Baldwin plays Alec Baldwin.
Does he? Okay. That bit must have completely missed me.
Yeah, it must have been a small cameo. Well,
yeah, I don't remember. Sam Elliott's in it. Sam Elliott is Sam Elliott. So using Sam Elliott as a smooth segue, I watched The Man Who Killed Hitler and then Bigfoot, starring Sam Elliott. Weird film.
Was that the cinema? Yeah.
No, I watched it at home.
Oh.
It was another one that I missed at the cinema, but it was a very limited release. Very weird. Overriding feeling of the film is weird.
I don't think I've heard of these.
Well, basically, Sam Elliott, in his younger days, killed Hitler, and then he's contracted by the government to kill Bigfoot.
Right.
That's the premise of the film, because Bigfoot is carrying like this pathogenic virus, so they need him killed before he spreads the virus into the general population. Quite how it would spread the virus into the population is beyond
2018.
Yeah. But yeah, this is one of those low budget films that kind of comes and goes, and it kind of has that kind of pulpy Bubba Hotep kind of feel about it.
So what's Bigfoot like in this? Is he a bit like Harry and the Henderson's Bigfoot?
No. very much more monster kind of Bigfoot. You don't see it very often, but it's kind of an ugly, kind of violent kind of Bigfoot.
Yeah. Is he referred to? Is he referred to as Bigfoot, or is it Sasquatch or whatever it's called?
No, as Bigfoot. Yeah. It's a weird film. If you've got a spare couple of hours, check it out. You might get something out of it, but it's very weird.
Right.
Weird. Yeah, just weird.
So it's not a skip it. It's a check it out, but it's a weird film.
Yeah, if we go off the buy it, rent it, or skip it, it would be a rent it.
All right, okay.
If that makes sense. Right. Yeah. I've watched it. I don't know if I enjoyed it. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Anyway. But Sam Elliott's always worth watching in anything.
Yeah.
I did also, because I've never seen it all the way through, I did very quickly I watched Roadhouse. I don't know if I was on a Sam Elliott trip or what.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. I'd never seen it all the way through, and it was on Netflix. So I thought, do you know what? I'll just fucking throw it on because I need to get these Peter Griffin references. You know, whenever he does a roundhouse kick and goes to the camera, Roadhouse. So I watched Roadhouse. It's a fucking terrible film. I don't know why I watched it. It's absolutely shocking. Even for its time, it's just shite. Yeah, it's a proper cult film, but I don't understand it. How anyone could think Patrick Swayze was, this ultimate badass, is completely beyond me. It's just really fucking bad. Typical shite 80s fucking film that's, trading off the handsome lead actor. Yeah, shit, really bad. Fucking garbage.
A bit Terry Funk's in that, isn't it?
Is he?
Yeah, ex-wrestler, yeah, I think he's not current wrestler, I don't know what he is, he must be in his mid-70s or something, I think. Sure he was in it, might be like a bench or something on one of the bars.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, I was just, I felt my brain getting squishy while I was watching it. I was just like, this is fucking awful, why am I watching this? But I saw it through, and I was kind of like, it's game over. And the last film that I can think of off the top of my head that I've watched is John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum.
Yeah. No spoilers though, Mike, please.
No spoilers whatsoever. Fucking awesome film. Awesome film. It comes with a caveat. It's an awesome film, technically.
Oh.
Out of the three films, I would say it's probably the weakest when it comes to plot and story.
Aye.
It opens the world up yet again, but I think it's getting to the point of breaking point with the story. Because some things happen in this film where you kind of question why they're happening. Because certain decisions are made and then they're disregarded in the very next scene. But that said, on an action level and a technical level, holy fuck does this raise the bar for this kind of action film.
What, even more so than John Wick 1 and 2?
Yeah, it takes every if John Wick Chapter 2 turned the action up to 11, this one dials it up even more so, mate. I don't think there's not a number.
Could you get it up anymore?
Probably not. Who knows? Because what they do quite brilliantly in this one is you have all of the kind of like gun fu and the jiu-jitsu and the judo from the first two John Wick films.
Yeah.
But then they introduce within that choreography new elements. So you've got a motorbike chase, which is pretty cool. You've got animals involved in the choreography this time. That's not a spoiler, you see it in the trailers. So you see John Wick on a horseback, riding through New York, having a gunfight and a samurai sword fight on horseback. Holy shit, is that great. Halle Berry pops up, again, not a spoiler, she's in the trailer, and she's got a couple of attack dogs.
Yeah.
The way that those dogs are used in that sequence is fucking amazing. It is absolutely breathtaking. The way that, because you've got not only John Wick, Keanu Reeves doing his shit, you've got Halle Berry, who is actually pretty badass. She's obviously trained, probably not to the level that Keanu has, but for her sequence, she's obviously done quite a bit of work to get to the level that she's at.
Yeah.
She's hitting her choreography, and in the middle of all of this, dogs are hitting the mark on choreography as well, because they time the action for shit that's happening around Keanu and Halle Berry's characters. They've timed the action in sequence with a dog, so something will happen over here on camera, and then the camera will move to kind of somewhere else, and Halle Berry's kicking ass there, and then the camera will move over here, and then we see two dogs hitting their fucking beat as well, and it's just absolutely if they use CG in that, it's absolutely seamless, because it looks like continuous takes, and to have two human actors do their bit of choreography without making any mistakes in separate parts of the camera is one thing, but then when you add animals into that as well, holy shit, that just fucking takes it up to another notch.
Wait, are these animals the Keanu Reeves of the animal world?
Well, yeah, they're pretty fucking good, mate. So, awesome, really good. Like, just on an action level. Obviously, it's not, the same kind of action that you get out of Infinity War or Endgame, big CGI spectacle. This is kind of like grassroots, hand-to-hand combat, gun fu, and now you've got fucking animal fight choreography in there as well, and it is absolutely stunning. And without spoiling it, it's left itself open, so this isn't necessarily the end. It has been announced.
Number 4.
Yeah, they have announced that there is going to be a chapter 4 and Keanu Reeves is coming back, which I'm very, very happy about, because the story that they're telling isn't over by any means.
Also, it's been left on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's been left open. I want to see where the story goes next, but I hope that they kind of rein it in a little bit, because for me, John Wick is most interesting when he is in his element, and for me, his element is around New York City. So let's keep it out of the desert in the next film. Let's not go, hopping continents too often. And let's kind of focus it, because for me the first John Wick film is the strongest, naturally, because John has a very narrow focus in that one. It's like avenge the death of Daisy. That's it.
Yeah.
The second one kind of broadens it a little bit more. It's kind of like, okay, Daisy's avenged, now I need to go and get revenge on people who stole my car and get my car back. This film, he doesn't have that sense of purpose as much. It's not as focused as what it should be, and it's a little bit worse off for that.
Does it suffer from the third film in the trilogy?
I would say it. Like I say, if you like the first two John Wick films, you're gonna love this one.
Yeah.
But for me, story wise, and where they've taken the story and the character, it's the worst of the three. On an action level, it's easily the best of the three.
Right.
Apart from the club scene in the first John Wick film, that's still my favourite sequence. Yeah. I could sit and watch that club scene on a loop.
Yeah.
Over and over again, because I think that's still the best. Is it the best? Technically, it's probably not the best. The dog sequence is probably the best technically, from an action standpoint. But yeah, it's still the club scene in the first John Wick is my favourite scene, even though it's probably not the best, for the shit that's happened on screen. Anyway, go and fucking watch it. If you like the first John Wick film and the second John Wick film, you will definitely like John Wick Chapter 3. That is a massive thumbs up, and we probably will, nod nod, wink wink, nudge nudge, be covering John Wick Chapter 2 in the near future.
Yeah. Well, I've not seen Chapter 2 yet. I've seen the first chapter.
Yeah.
That's the podcast, but I've been kind of...
Well, there's not much to spoil John Wick Chapter 3, but avoid reading about it.
Yeah, I've avoided the trailers. All I've known is really what you just mentioned now, but to be honest with you, in a minute, I'm just going to go into John Wick 2, watch that, and then we'll get on to the third film. But I'm kind of hanging fire actually until you bring it up and you want to cover it in the podcast episode. Then.
Right, okay.
And I'm going to watch it then, I think, try and get it watched twice or something before we start recording. Yeah, so so nudge nudge we might pick it soon.
All right, fair enough. I'll try and pick it before John Wick 3 goes out.
I'm just wondering, did you get X-Men Dark Phoenix advertised before John Wick or anything? How's that looking? because apparently from the reviews I've heard, I don't know if it's if people watched it already. It's supposed to be bad.
I'm not hearing good things.
Yeah,
I'm not hearing good things. Not that I've got my finger on the pulse of movie shit, but it does. The trailers look uninspiring. The fact that it's being directed by one of the long-time producers is not filling me with confidence. I don't think Simon Kinberg has actually... Has he directed anything before? I think this might be his first film that he's directing.
I'm not sure, but I know they've done numerous reshoots, haven't they?
Yeah, I've heard that there's been reshoots. Yeah, I think the last act... you see in the trailer a sequence that a set piece that's taking place on a train. I believe that was supposed to take place in space.
Oh, right.
So that's a hell of a fucking location change to go from like an action set piece set in space to being set on a train. If that's true, I could be wrong. I could be conflating, two separate reports that I read there. But I've heard of reshoots. Sophie Turner doesn't really kind of like inspire me with confidence that she can carry this film. I think it's going to be the second time that they fuck up the Dark Phoenix storyline, or the Phoenix storyline in general. Yeah, because if you look at... I really liked X-Men First Class.
Yeah,
Days of Future. Yeah, Days of Future Past was good. I didn't think it was on the level of First Class. I thought First Class was truly something that breathed it breathed new life into the franchise, and it was sorely needed. And the fact that they let Matthew Vaughn go and they didn't get him back to carry on, and ended off going the Days of Future Past route with Bryan Singer, that was a massive missed opportunity. And X-Men Apocalypse for me was... Well, it was the X-Men 3 of this trilogy. It was easily the worst. Apocalypse was mishandled. The story was... Yeah, it was just confused.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think of Apocalypse, I think there was only two scenes I like in that whole film. I think the first scene is the one with Quicksilver, when he's saving everybody in the house. Then that's pretty cool. And then you got the scene when Wolverine turns up when he's Weapon X, and that's about it, really, I think.
Yeah, but after that, I just wanted that to be, like, bloody. I wanted to see that as its own film, because we'd had Logan at this point, and we could see what Weapon X could potentially be, with blood and decapitations and fucking arms being cut off, and to go back to like a 12A version of that.
Yeah, like X-Men 2 version.
It was a step back, and even though like the imagery was good, because I remember that was one of the very first comic books I remember vividly actually reading the whole like Weapon. I remember having the cover, and I remember sitting down and trying to draw my own version of it and all that kind of stuff. So, even the Quicksilver scene in Apocalypse was just a rip off of the Quicksilver scene Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
It was like, how can we one up it? And I didn't think it was.
I don't think it one up to. I think it wasn't quite as good, but it was a standout scene from a poor film, Apocalypse in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they fucked up the Apocalypse. For him as a villain, he should have been the badass. He should have been the Thanos of the X-Men universe. But
should have been.
Yeah, but he should have been. You know what I mean? He was just. I don't know. There was something about it when I think I mentioned it on one of the episodes previous that he reminded me a bit of a Power Rangers villain / the Wishmaster from the Wishmaster. Like it was called the Jinn in the Wishmaster movies.
Yeah.
Bit of both, and he didn't look anything like the comics or the even the X-Men cartoon from the 90s, because he was like taller in that, and you know what I mean, he had different powers. And in this, it was like no, it just didn't work for me. But yeah, I think First Class, and maybe Days of Future Past, and then it just went downhill from there.
Yeah,
but Logan brought it back up. But then that's it. Now Wolverine's done.
Yeah, but Logan told the story that he wanted to tell, and it wasn't kind of like for me, Logan is the last film in the original X-Men timeline. And that's probably including X-Men 3. Sadly, even though it's not a great film, but Logan is for me the kind of bookend for those first three films. Whereas X-Men First Class starts. It's a different timeline. It's got to be a different timeline, even though the X-Men timeline in general is just one massive fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've discussed that before, but yeah, I don't have much interest in Dark Phoenix whatsoever. I'm really on the fence as to whether or not I'll go and watch it. I don't know if I will or not. I don't have much interest in it anyway.
I think I'll go and watch it anyway because I'm intrigued. But you know what I mean? I'm not. Can't say looking forward to it. I think.
Anyway.
Yeah, let's move on to the feature film.
Yeah, this was my pick. This was Dredd from 2012.
Yeah, so don't get it confused.
This is not for anyone.
Stallone's version.
Yeah, if anyone's confused, this is not the Stallone Judge Dredd.
Yeah, is it 1995 that or something?
It is. I think that's. Yeah,
sure it was about that time, 95.
Yeah, probably sounds right.
Yeah. So then, let's get into it.
I've got to get this out of the way. I'm not a huge Judge Dredd aficionado. This character's been running in comic book form for 40 odd years. Weirdly, one of my favourite facts about Judge Dredd, like the comic books, is that the character has aged in the comic books in real time. So, from the point,
I think I've never read maybe one or two of his comics.
I've read a couple, not a lot.
Yeah,
I've read a couple of the 2000 ADs. I remember having an annual, a 2000 AD annual, and the only reason I used to read them is because they kind of like serialized. So you'd get maybe a Judge Dredd story in there, then you'd get a different, just a one-shot story of a different character in there, and there's, it was kind of like the Dandy or the Beano, where it's a comic book, but you've got all these different characters in there with separate storylines. So it's almost like an anthology book. So I read a couple of them, and I don't know a lot about the character. I'll start off by saying that, but I remember seeing the Judge Dredd film, the '95 Stallone movie. It wasn't a great film. Very flashy, very '90s film. I think it looks, looking back on it now, I think it looks good. Like the production design and stuff like that. I think it holds up pretty well for a '90s action film on that stage. Lots of miniature work and, those kind of special effects look alright.
And the robot what's in that as well moves.
Yeah,
right.
I think
it's a mid-90s film.
Yeah, I think the Angel Gang look pretty well in that as well, especially.
Is that the cannibals?
Yeah, the Mean Machine character looks pretty comic accurate. He looks pretty decent.
It's not Ron Perlman, that, isn't it?
Is it?
Sure it is.
No, I don't think it is.
Is it not?
No. I surely would have remembered. Let me Google. Google to the rescue for like the 10th time in this podcast. Christopher Adamson is Mean Machine. Yeah. Pretty comic accurate, from what I remember. But this kind of like this type of action film doesn't exist out of the 90s anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's all, well, it's a Sylvester Stallone show, isn't it? It's all about him. The Judge Dredd. There was a big point made about the '95 Judge Dredd film that Judge Dredd never takes his helmet off in the comics, and if he does take his helmet off in the comics, it's always kind of obscured or kind of like censored. They'll always kind of like hide it.
Yeah, but you see back of his head, he takes the helmet off, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think the way that this film was received back in 1995, it wasn't received very well, from what I remember. It's kind of left a lasting impact on this film in a way.
Yeah, because
I think this is a really good film. It's very underrated. You said that off mic. That's an underrated film, and it didn't do very well in the cinema. The 2012 version here with Karl Urban, despite it being pretty comic accurate to the character, and being what people wanted a couple of years later with a nice hard R, gory, kind of honest depiction of a more adult, character.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'd get that with Deadpool, and Deadpool, broke all kinds of records, but this sadly didn't.
Do you think if maybe this came out after Deadpool, it might have more of a bit of a following? Do you think?
That's an interesting question because obviously this film exists in a time where Deadpool's come after the fact, and people have been asking for a sequel for this film for a long time since the first film came out. And I know there's talk of like a TV show. I don't know if that's still going ahead, but there's things online about Judge Dredd Mega City 1, which could go onto one of the streaming services, and Karl Urban has been quoted as saying he's in discussions to reprise the character. And it's like, well, we've seen Deadpool come out now and be really successful, so why aren't people looking back at films like this and saying, do you know what, let's take a punt?
Yeah.
Because this did really well on home media from everything that I've read.
That's what I mean. I think if it came out just after Deadpool, or if it came out now, I think there'd be I think it'd be a following for it, and we'd probably get a sequel, or maybe they go off and do the trilogy or something like that, or even the TV series. It probably happened way before now, but yeah, just
it's certainly a possibility. If this came after Deadpool, then it might have done better. But it's a weird one because it's like all of these fans who are kind of clamouring for a sequel to this film, or the TV show and stuff like that, they're the very ones that didn't go to watch the fucking film in the cinema. So you kind of got no one to blame but yourselves.
Yeah.
Which is the frustrating part of it. Well, we want this and we want that and all this. Well, you had the chance to get it by going watching this in the first place.
Yeah, it's funny though because we've had sequels come out to lesser films. You know what I mean? And then Judge Dredd comes out, we've not had a sequel to it or anything, and you know what I mean? It's a better film than like, well, if you compare it to say the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all them sequels have come out. You know what I mean? They're all dog shit. Judge Dredd is a decent film, and we've had no sequel from it.
I mean, it's a really good film, and it's kind of like it's grounded in reality. But there's mistakes that have been made with this film across the board when it comes to the marketing of it. Because I remember when the kind of like they were trying to whip up the hype for this film, I was like, oh right, there's a new Judge Dredd coming. Okay. Oh right, it's going to star Éomer from Lord of the Rings. Okay, fair enough. And then you saw, pictures of him, coming out in magazines and was it Empire or I can't remember what magazine it was at the time, but I remember seeing a picture of him with his the suit that he wears in this film, and it was obviously the suit that he wears in the film. It's a very tactical version of the Judge Dredd costume from the comic book, so there's no huge kind of like golden eagle on his shoulder on one side and shoulder pad, like almost like American football shoulder pads. They're gone. This is more kind of like an armored take on the suit, so he's got padding here and there, and it's not just a jumpsuit like fucking Sylvester Stallone wore in the first film. And I looked at it and I was kind of like, okay, I recognise the helmet, I see the kind of like the embossed badge on his shield, and I was kind of like, the basics are there, but it kind of looks a little, dare I say it, cheap and nasty, and is it really going to hold up? So all of the promotion material looked really kind of naff. Like even the poster. If you look at the poster for the movie Dredd 3D.
What, with the back on top of the building?
Yeah, just him standing at the top of the building. That is, have they just taken the fucking poster for Ben Affleck's Daredevil and taken Daredevil out and photoshopped him in?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just, that is so unimaginative. It doesn't sell the film at all. It just,
So, like you said, marketing wise, they didn't get it
but
right,
this is a film that is actually pretty well, made. It's a decent little self-contained story and a great way to introduce the character of Dredd to a new audience. And sadly, it just hasn't taken hold. Unfortunately, I know it's kind of got a little bit of a following, that we were talking about before, but it's one of those. And I remember when this film came out as well, because for people, if you haven't watched it, which we always recommend, you go and watch the film before you listen to the podcast, so we don't get trapped in just recapping the story. This film is pretty much set in one tower block in Mega City 1. Just takes place in one of these mega structures. Which basically, Mega City 1 is one of the last remaining cities on Earth. How many? Is it 800 million people live in these mega cities or something like that?
Yeah, Peachtree's it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Peachtree's houses 75,000, I think it says. So imagine like a 200 floor, skyscraper, and 75,000 people live in one of these. And in these mega cities, there are hundreds of these, giant superstructures that all house similar amounts of people in there. So Dredd gets kind of trapped in one of these tower block facilities with a rookie that he's been tasked with kind of not training but assessing. She's on assessment to see if she can actually cut it as a street judge.
Yeah, but the twist with her is she's got
telepathy. So she's a mutant because the world is irradiated now, so there are mutants in this world, and she is one of the luckier mutants in the fact that she doesn't have like 3 noses and she's actually got psionic abilities, so she's psychic, and Dredd doesn't really want to assess her, but he's kind of forced into it by one of the chief judges to take her out on assessment. And the worst thing happens. They go out on a call. This 3 drug dealers have kind of like been skinned and thrown from the top floor of this building. They go to investigate it, and they get trapped in there by a drug lord played by Lena Headey, Mama.
Yeah, the Mama icon.
People will obviously recognise Lena Headey, or might not, because she's kind of like really scruffed down in this film, isn't she? But
yeah, battle scared.
Yeah, but you will recognise her from the absolute juggernaut that is 300. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, you'll recognise her from Game of Thrones. She's Cersei Lannister in that. So, but I first kind of like became aware of Lena Headey through 300. She was Queen Gorgo in 300.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. Yeah. Is she still in Game of Thrones?
Considering the last episode just aired, I don't want to give any spoilers away. But she is in Game of Thrones. I will just say that. Yeah.
So she did with Sean Bean and left after season 1, and then
she made it to season 8. Yeah.
Right, okay. So
he didn't. Sean Bean didn't leave. His character was killed off after season 1.
Yeah.
Old Sean Bean. He doesn't do well, does he? He dies in fucking everything. But
yeah.
But yeah, she's in Game of Thrones. Obviously, she's probably one of the most well-known characters in Game of Thrones, and she popped up in this this was 2012, so it would have been between first and second season of Game of Thrones back then.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like, So she was just getting into a stride when
she was. Yeah. I mean, the character of Cersei obviously became bigger as the show went on, especially to like the 6th, 7th, and 8th season. So like early doors, she was just kind of like one of the characters or one of the main characters. Yeah. But by the time the later seasons of Game of Thrones came along, she was one of the main characters. She was like the main antagonist of the whole film. The whole series at that point. So this, when Dredd came out, this is pretty early doors in the Game of Thrones kind of life cycle. But even so, she's definitely channeling a little bit of Cersei, what Cersei would become with her portrayal of MaMa, because she's just, for me, she's one of the all-time, great villains in a comic book film. She's absolutely.
I mean, she makes one dumbass move halfway through the film. I'm sure we'll get to that anyway. Or we can just get to it now.
Well, you brought it up. Yeah.
We'll get to it. Yeah, well, we'll get to it now, actually. Do you know the part when where they trap Dredd and he goes off by himself? They get trapped Dredd with the rookie and the prisoner. And Dredd just wanders off and he said, "You will wait at the elevator," and that's a good place to hold up kind of thing. And he goes off. on his own, and then he sees her setting up the machines.
Oh, those
on
big,
side
huge,
of the
like Gatling guns,
and
yeah.
huge guns. There's like 3 or 4 of them there. It's like something out of like Predator, in it, what Jesse Ventura has. Just blasting away there, something like that. But she's just firing to the part of the building where he is, and Dredd's hiding behind the walls, and he's running, and people are getting shot and like caught basically from get shredded with these bullets coming at you. And I think to myself, why didn't she just go around there with like a clan, a gang, and just go and just kill them instead of like kissing around?
I think the reason that didn't happen is because just because of the sheer scale. You kind of don't get from that balcony scene where they're setting up the guns. You don't kind of get a decent sense of scale of how big these buildings are, because these buildings, like I say, they house 75,000 people. They're 200 floors high, and that section, because it is kind of like a bit of a trope, because they're literally facing off against each other across these balconies of this one particular building. So it is a little bit convenient that Dredd's on one side and she's on the other side, and she's just happening to be setting up the guns facing the side that he's on at that point. So that it's a little bit convenient, but the building is that big that just because of the I suppose it's the kind of limitation of the actual budget of the film itself. They couldn't build the entire segment of that balcony, so you just see like where they're at and setting guns up, and it looks pretty small, but it's not. You'd have to run all the way around, and by the time you run all the way around, he's seen you running, so he moves. You know what I mean? He's gone. So,
but it's just the fact because she was trying to kill him and she didn't go around there to kill him because she had the chance, because if anything they were blocked in up to the elevator.
Well, more to the point, I mean, the fact of that scene is it highlights just how fucking ruthless this woman is.
Well, I think if anything, she was confident when she actually looked like she's cocky, and she actually could take him out.
Well, you would be, because I mean, the whole thing with this Peachtree's building is you get this kind of like voiceover narration, which is there's a lot of kind of John Carpenter influence in this film, from the music to the kind of the narration and the use of kind of like computer graphic overlays in a very basic wireframe way. There's a lot of kind of nods and winks back to things like Escape from New York and stuff with the John Carpenter influences there. But when you get in the introduction to Mama, and they're explaining her character, is it Madeline Madrigal, her full name? Yeah, she was a prostitute who lived in Peachtree's, and within these buildings, they're kind of like they're almost war zones. They have these kind of like gangs or factions within these buildings that kind of like rule the roost, and
didn't she start at the top?
She started. So there was 3 kind of main factions in Peachtree's, and she essentially took all of the gangs out. She started as a prostitute, and she got a little bit of power. I don't think it explains how she got the power, but she is described as feminizing a guy with her teeth, which is just a fucking horrific kind of way to describe that. She bit a guy's dick off. I like to think that the guy that she bit, his appendage off, was like a crime lord of one of these, rival gangs, and
maybe they both feared.
Yeah, so she's bit his dick off, she's killed him, and she's assumed power over his gang, and then one by one, she's systematically gone floor by floor, kind of like killing these rival gangs. I think it was the Judged, the Peyote Dragons, and something else. So essentially, she's won a gang war and come out on top, and she completely controls from top to bottom all 200 floors of this building, where she has set up production and manufacture of the new drug on the scene, the new hot drug, which is slow-mo.
Slow-mo drug in it, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so she makes and distributes from Peachtree's. She makes and distributes this new drug, which is very reminiscent in my eyes of RoboCop 2 with that nuke.
You know what I was thinking actually myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that.
There's a few nods to RoboCop as well in this. The part where he says something like, "You've got 20 seconds to comply."
Yeah.
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 I suppose there's no way of getting around. If somebody mentions that in a film, you're not going to obviously think of Robocop straight away.
Yeah, there's I don't know if it's a direct nod, but it's one of those. It's kind of like you're going to be reminded of it, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the way that they introduced Mama. I don't think she was actually a character in any of the 2000 AD comics. I think she was made up for the film.
Oh right, okay.
But just the way that they introduce her is just kind of like she started off as a prostitute, bit a guy's dick off, and then one by one she went through all the floors and she wiped out all of these other, rival gangs, and assumed control of this entire 200 floor building. She's a fucking badass. She's just badass. And you see that as well. She has a few scenes with Domhnall Gleeson's character, which is the computer tech guy.
Oh, the guy from Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Star Wars as well, isn't it?
Yeah, he plays Hux in the new Star Wars films.
Yeah, didn't she take his eyeballs out or something?
Yeah, she fucking thumbs his eyeballs out.
Yeah, nasty. Yeah, because he's got kind of like computerized eyeballs.
Yeah, he has bionic eyes after that. I think that is a nod and a wink to a storyline where Dredd loses his eyeballs, and he has them replaced with bionic eyes. So I don't know if that's a nod and a wink to what happens in that storyline. I lost my train of thought there, but top and bottom is Lena Headey is a fucking badass in this.
Yeah, she's feared it. She by all the by her own.
That's what I was going to say. There's that one scene where she's Domhnall Gleeson's kind of like on the communications to the cops outside, and he's saying that the
blast. The blast, like the shield up kind of thing.
Yeah, she's just stood at the side of him, and just kind of like her presence is more than enough to put the fear of God into this guy. He's absolutely shitting himself trying to get authorization to close the blast shields on peach trees, and she's just there staring at him, kind of thing, as if to say, if you don't fucking do this, I'm gonna slit your throat.
Yeah, you can tell he was shitting her.
Yeah, so she has a presence about her. She has this kind of like vicious presence about her, and you know that she's not to be fucked with, because even though she's a woman, you do see that scene where she's plunging her thumbs into his eyes. You know that she's actually capable of horrific things.
Isn't it the first time you see it though? You don't see his face, do you? I think it's going to reveal later on that he's the boy that she's thumbing the eyes.
Yeah.
Later on, they're like, I don't know, it's about halfway through the film or something.
I think you see it in a flashback when Anderson, because she's obviously psychic, she reads. What's the guy's name? The black fella that they're trying to get out of the...
the medic.
No. Kay. He's called Kay, isn't he?
Yeah, the hostage.
Yeah. So they're trying to get him out to interrogate him, and she's trying to stop them from getting him out and interrogating, because at this point the judges don't know that Peachtree's is the main operational facility for manufacturing the slow-mo. But the character Kay knows that, and the judges are trying to get him out to interrogate him, and obviously they'll uncover that and then come back to Peachtree's en masse to shut down the operations, and Mama doesn't want to let that happen, so she's trying to lock the building down.
Yeah, because they're cuffing him up or something like that. Anderson the rookie. She says, it's him. He's the guy.
Yeah, because the first scene is like those three guys that Mama skins and chucks off the top, and Kay is one of the guys that oversaw them being skinned, and you see the flashbacks of the actual skin being peeled off the body with that knife and stuff.
But she says something like, Dredd turns around and says, are you positive, kind of thing. She said, I'm 99%. He said, I can't
you can't
execute him on 99% or something.
Yeah, because that's the thing about the judges. They're kind of like they're the enforcers of the law now, aren't they? So they are able to dispense justice on the spot, and if the sentence is death, they can essentially hand you that death sentence on the spot with the lawgivers. Is it?
Yeah,
the lawgivers. Yeah, the guns that they use.
Yeah, and I think as well though, in one part of the film where I think it's when it's a group of guys, like 10 or 12 of them or something like that, and Dredd and Anderson start taking them on when they shoot them. Didn't one of them? She hesitates and she about killing one of them, and Dredd turns around and he says, "Yeah, he's fired on a Dredd or something. That his sentence is death."
Yeah, he's attempted to kill a street judge, so the sentence is death. Yeah. Because that moment comes back a little bit later when they're running from the MaMa clan. And they go into the apartment, and she realizes that the guy that she's just executed on the spot was the husband and father to this woman that she's just whose apartment she's just gone into.
Yeah, hiding.
Yeah.
Well, she realized, didn't she? She knew that her husband or boyfriend or whatever had been killed by the judges. I think. And that's the impression I got.
I don't know if she knew at that point, because she just says, "I just want you off my floor, away from like her baby," kind of thing. Yeah. And then Anderson sees the photograph of the fella on the side, and she goes to say, and she said, "You don't need to say anything, just get off the floor," kind of thing. So I don't think that woman knows at that point, but yeah. What I did have a note here. Yes, I do have a few notes. Yeah, I remember seeing The Raid. Have you seen The Raid?
I've never seen The Raid. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah.
It's something to watch with like a lot of films.
Yeah, so the Raid came out in 2011, and again, that's an action film set in an apartment block, very similar to Dredd, very, very much so.
Is it futuristic?
No.
It sounds.
Yeah, it's set more contemporary, but it's more kind of focused on hand-to-hand combat and kind of martial arts and stuff like that. There is gunplay involved and stuff, but it's one of those Indonesian kind of martial arts films.
Yeah.
And Dredd, because it came out a year later than The Raid, and obviously has structural similarities to The Raid. It was kind of not derided, but a few people said, "Oh, this is blatantly taking cues from The Raid," despite the fact that technically Dredd was written well before The Raid. So it's one of those where the film was conceived and written before another film came out, but because they share similarities, it's like, oh, this is derisive of that, and it's the other way round, really speaking. It's just one of those things.
Which is the better film, Dredd or Raid?
It's difficult to say, because they're both really, really good. I like The Raid, but for different reasons, because it's a different type of action film. I like Dredd because it's based on Judge Dredd, and I think it does really well.
Yeah.
With adapting that character.
Yeah.
They are, similar films in premise, but the routes that they take are completely different. So you get a different experience out of
so it's just
both films.
similar in the way that it's set in a tower block, but
yeah. But there was a few kind of like sniffy kind of reviews that came out saying Dredd is too similar to The Raid, and it doesn't do things as well as The Raid, and blah 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 blah. But it was penciled. It was penned before The Raid.
Right. Yeah.
It was just scheduling that made Dredd come out later than The Raid. So one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Something we skipped over as well. We skipped over the bike chase at the start. Yeah, we skipped over that scene, didn't we? That's pretty good. And the fact is,
did you see this at the cinema?
No, I didn't. No. I think I wanted to, but for whatever reason, I just never got around to watching it. So I picked it up on Blu-ray, which, oddly enough, I think when it got released on Blu-ray, 3D Blu-ray, I think it was only a tenner. It wasn't much, brand new. It came out at a budget price.
Yeah, I think you're right. It just came out, but it's one of those because it didn't do well. They probably just wanted to, get it out at a decent rate and see if people would pick it up.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I picked it up anyway for a tenner, and as well because I watched it in 3D. The 3D actually holds up well, but I mean this is not comparing it to like what I don't know what it was like at the cinema, but on my own TV at home here, 3D looks pretty good. You know what I mean? When he's shooting people and the blood's flying out, and the scene at the start where it says Dredd, and Dredd comes out at you in the face, the word in Dredd, and all the like bits of glass or whatever coming out of it. That's pretty well done.
Well, the thing is with this, it was shot in 3D, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It has the benefit as well as a lot of the main 3D kind of sequences are kind of shot around the slow-mo effect. So like when these guys take a hit of the slow-mo drug, it essentially slows time down to, you know, a tenth of what it actually is. So, you know, everything is much slower. You can see and the camera kind of holds on. There's a shot where they're kind of like busting into one of the apartments, aren't they? And the guys in there have taken a hit of slow-mo, and they're all armed, but Dredd kicks the door down and then starts shooting, and all the bullet shots are kind of like shown in slow motion. You've got that brilliant shot where
his belly on top of...
No, the one I'm thinking of is like a guy gets shot in the cheek, and you see you see the back. You actually see the exit wound in this film, which is, you know, something rare. You don't see that very often. Normally someone will get hit and the point of impact is where all the blood sprays out of, whereas in real life that's not how it would actually work. If someone gets shot, the point of impact where the bullet goes in is the smaller of the two wounds. The exit wound is where all of the blood would actually come out. And you actually see this where this one guy gets shot through the cheek, and then you see through the back of his head, you see just like his mouth and his jaw just kind of like erupt, and all this fucking blood, and you see the teeth and everything just come out of it. And it's all shot in slow-mo because they're all stoned on this slow-mo. So you see that, you know, the folds of skin just kind of like bulge and then break, and all the blood spurts out, and it's just really, really well done. And
so that them scenes hold up very well in 3D. Yeah. So anybody who's like in two minds about 3D, definitely Judge Dredd ticks the boxes for 3D.
I have made my feelings very clear on the use of 3D, but this is one of the films that I don't mind. The only kind of like distraction that I had with the 3D is that the film, in certain scenes, is very dark. You know, especially down the corridors within the buildings and stuff like that, when they're trying to marshal him out of Peachtree's, the character of Kay. Some of the lighting is very dark. Obviously, I watched it in the cinema. They didn't ramp up the brightness of the projector, which is always a bugbear of mine. When you're watching a 3D film, make the projector just a little, turn up the brightness. I know it's not as simple as just turning up the brightness, but just fucking have a little bit more light coming through. Because the minute you put those glasses on, you lose a good third of the light of the film overall. And in a dark film like this, that doesn't help things. So that kind of annoyed me. I did want to see the film in 2D when it came out as cinema. However, there was nowhere showing it. It was very, very limited in 2D screens when this came out, and that annoyed the shit out of me. That probably didn't help the box office, because this was kind of at the height of, you know, the 3D fad at cinema. 2012, obviously it's after the Avatar effect, so everyone's trying to either post-convert the films or shoot the films in 3D so they could charge an extra couple of quid on the ticket prices, and obviously could charge you for the 3D glasses and wring a little bit more money out of you that way. And they just, it was one of the all of the posters, you know, it says Dredd, and underneath it says 3D, every single fucking poster. So, you know, when it came down to it, on the theatrical run, you really didn't have a choice but to go and watch Dredd in 3D. Yeah, they really...
But like you said, because they filmed it in 3D, so like, it made sense.
Yeah, sure, but I would have liked the option to go and watch it in 2D. Yeah, give me the option.
So what do you want it on there?
Well, I've got the Blu-ray, but it's got both 3D and 2D versions on it.
Yes, same as me, yeah.
Again, last night I watched it in 3D, just, you know, because shock horror, it was one of those. And it did annoy me because, you know, I don't know if I need to replace a bulb on my projector, but I had to ramp up the brightness a lot.
Right.
You know, because... But
did you find as though you enjoy the 3D aspects of the film compared to, say, I don't know, other 3D films that we've talked about in the past?
The way that they did it with this is they didn't really, aside from the slow-mo scenes, which, you know, had things not flying at camera, but there was things to kind of like see in 3D in the slow-mo scenes, but they did that whole kind of like window into the world effect, so it was more about giving you a sense of depth within the frame rather than having something, you know, fly out at the screen at you to make you flinch and kind of recoil. It's like, oh my god, I need to get out of the way of that, and blah 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 blah. This was more. It felt more like a depth of field effect, so you could kind of like, see over Dredd's shoulder to the guy that he's, pointing a gun at him, and then behind him there's two more henchmen, so you get a sense of depth. Yeah, rather than, oh, let's just shoot bullets at the camera, and, it can be like this, snazzy pop-out effect kind of thing, which is kind of pointless, you know what I mean? It's just gimmicky. But I don't mind 3D where it is used to give you a sense of depth. Yeah, that's where it's more kind of impressive for me, because it feels like you're looking at something as opposed to something just flying at you and bells and whistles and all that kind of stuff. So
I think this is one of them what ticks the boxes with the 3D for me anyway.
Yeah. I just would have liked it to have been a little bit brighter in the cinema when I went and watched it, because that really did bug me. The darker scenes. And it's one of those films that has a visual aesthetic about it. It blows out, especially in the slow-mo scenes, it blows out the white contrast. So, there's lots of bloom and stuff, lots of things twinkle and have highlights. And, you have that shot of Dredd as he's shooting guys, and he's all of the red rim on his helmet when the guys are high on slow-mo. It's all highlighted with, like, specular highlights, and it almost looks like a painting of his helmet as opposed to a physical thing on his head. So
as well. Do you know what I was saying about the car chases? He chases the three blokes in the van, and they crash. He shoots one of the tires out and they crash, and he chases them to the building. Two of the guys die in the crash, and one of them, the survivor, just runs off, or Dredd goes after him on pursuit kind of thing, and he walks after him. This bloke ends up in this like shopping centre, and he's got a hostage he's got a guy like kind of holding the hostage with a gun to her face or gun to her head, and he's saying Dredd to back off, put the gun down, and Dredd just pulls out his gun all of a sudden, and he's talking to him, and he just randomly just talking like I am.
Well, he's negotiating with him, isn't he? He's kind of like, if you come quietly now, I'll give you life and an ISO cube, and he's like, what kind of deal is that? Life and an ISO cube. And he's like, well, if you don't come with me, the sentence is going to be death.
But what's the word he says though for the gun he shoots for the
hot shot?
Hot shot. That's it. He said, well, what did you say? I said hot shot, and he shoots him, and he goes straight in his mouth and sets him on fire. His face. Because
he's like, okay, negotiations are over now, hot shot, or something like that. And he's like, what did you say? And he's like, hot shot. Boom. Yeah, and then and then you get this little kind of like ring of smoke that comes out the back of his head as his head, like the back of his skull explodes.
Got that scene. That scene.
I mean,
that's the thing as well, because the guns are loaded up with he's got the ammo, they're loaded up with bullets, they're special bullets, and whatever, like I said, hot shot, or they've got like the grenades there or whatever. They've got something random like a piercing grenade or something.
Yeah, well, they did that in the 95 Judge Dredd, didn't they? Because he's he's got all different types of rounds in the law.
Yeah,
give us Lawbringer, whatever it is, in the judge's weapons, and there's that scene in Judge Dredd where he's outside this room and people are inside with guns shooting at him, and he's like double whammy, and then the gun repeats back double whammy, and another fucking barrel comes out of the gun, and then somehow it's able to shoot left and right at the same time, despite the barrels being underneath each other. Or one on top of each other. It's just like, oh, fucking hell. But in this, they kind of do it the right way. It's kind of like, he'll verbally give the gun a command. He'll say, like, high explosive, and then the weapon will change to high explosive. Or incendiary, and hot shot, or armor piercing, whatever it is. There's different rounds.
What's the one when they're on the steps, and then some of the gang are coming down the steps, and he said, go on, Lucky, you're Carl. And she says something like gas grenade or something like that. So they put the masks on.
Yeah, that's right.
He tells the prisoner, that black chap, he said, "You want to hold your breath."
Yeah, you need to hold your breath now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. That when they put the smoke grenade up there, and it's all like a green smoke, and it all pops up in front of the clan, and you stay just look. So, not so emotional, but they just go up, take the time, and just pop them all off.
What I like about that is, throughout the course of the film, it's just them two in there, and they're cut off, and they haven't really got any backup. They do get a call out for backup, but it doesn't really come in the way that they want it to. And the fact that they're battling through all of these guys that are coming after them, wave after wave, they actually run out. Dredd runs out of ammo at one point. And it's just good to see that, rather than be one of those kind of like action films that fall into the category of the hero has a never-ending supply of bullets in his gun, and he can fire a magazine that's got 20 more bullets than what the actual magazine can actually carry, and all this kind of stuff. So it's good to see them actually have a finite amount of resources, and it kind of, at one point he says, "Oh, we need to switch to silencers now on the weapons." And save ammo, yeah. Don't shoot unless you're gonna hit, and all this kind of stuff. So I like that. It brought a different kind of element to just kind of like being trapped in the tower block with a bunch of bad guys.
There's something like that's called incognito or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, covert mode or some shit like that. Yeah. But it's just something that you don't normally see in an action film. Normally the good guy is able to get another gun off a bad guy, and has almost an unlimited supply of bullets, and it's like, yeah, there's not really much threat then. But if you know that your heroes are going to run out of ammo, it kind of puts a ticking clock on it. It's like, they're up against the wall, they need to conserve ammo, they need to think smart. Against kind of overwhelming odds, they have to think a little bit smarter than what the bad guys are. So I like that element. It was good.
Yeah, and possibly he gets shot, doesn't he? Because he's was it ammo? Would you say?
I also liked the fact that even though kind of like they're trapped in this situation, which is a very real situation to be trapped in, he's still assessing Anderson throughout it. Like you just said. Then he says, you're an assessment rookie, it's your call, what do we do now? So for him, all of this shit that's going on around him, he's not bothered. He's mainly there to see how she performs under pressure. So it's just another day at the job to him. The main focus of him is he needs to get this guy outside, but you're still on assessment here. Our lives are in jeopardy here, but still, you're on assessment, so, you need to pass your fucking driving test, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I like that. He never loses sight of the fact that he still needs to assess Anderson through all of this. So, what else was I going to say? Just because I've seen it on the screen now, I've got it playing in the background. Lena Headey's tattoos that she has as Mama. That was a nice little touch. That some of the tattoos are her actual tattoos. So she has, like, in real life, she has floral tattoos on her arm, and the makeup guys just extended it up to her neck and stuff like that. So they took existing tattoos and just kind of like carried on and put them around her body, which is pretty cool. And I think that scar that's on her cheek as well is probably the best scar that I've seen on someone since what's his face in Platoon? Is it Tom Berenger?
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen Platoon.
Yeah, I always like it when they can kind of like do these facial tattoos, but you don't see it as a prosthetic. It looks as if it's actually going into the flesh as opposed to building upon the actual face of the person. Because that's the trick. Whenever you're putting prosthetics onto someone's face, to kind of like show indents and stuff like, you have to build outwards. So let's take like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator 2, where the Terminator has his face ripped off. Obviously, you're not able to actually show his face being ripped off. And the only way to show something underneath that is to put an appliance on top of what is already there. So you have to build out on the prosthetics to show depth inside, if that makes sense.
Correct.
And that's always tricky to do, because if you get that wrong, it just looks like you've just glued a lump of fucking rubber onto the side of someone's face, and it puts the proportions of the face out. But with this scar on Mama's face, it actually looks as if it's going into her flesh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like an indent in her face.
Yeah. So there's actual depth there, yeah. And
we never found out she got the scar, did we?
No, it just shows as a cutaway. I'm assuming it's the point where she bit the guy's dick off, because it shows her looking at the camera like almost a mugshot, and then it cuts to
she's
her,
covered in blood,
and she's got blood between her teeth, and she's got the scar on her face. So I'm assuming she's had a scuffle with that guy, bit his dick off, but he's hit her with something, that's caused the scar on her face. Doesn't explain why her teeth are all manky towards the end of the film. She's got like green fucking like, I don't know, whatever it is, but green plaque in her teeth. She's got really manky teeth in this as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, really manky. Yeah. I mean, it depends what drugs you should be doing. Maybe using that drug and that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because obviously, smoking or inhaling that kind of shit could leave a layer on the teeth and they could just rot and stuff. But I think she just wanted to, get down and dirty with her, because she's got the manky hair, like the matted hair, and she's got that big fucking scar and just like ugly bloodshot eyes, and almost no makeup on, and it's just a change to take someone as a beautiful a woman as she is and just kind of like rough her up really well.
Big time.
Yeah.
There's that scene as well though where Dredd comes face to face with another he goes didn't he have a little fight with one of them, 1-to-1, and he ended up clubbing one of them in the neck with his gun.
So basically halfway through the film, Mama decides to dial 911, ironically, and she calls in the help of 4 corrupt street judges, and they are tasked with killing Dredd and getting rid of him.
It's like so many credits.
Yeah, they ask for like 1 million credits. They're like, "Oh, do you know who this judge is?" And she's like, "No," and he's like, "Well, I do." As if to say, this is Judge Dredd that you're dealing with here. This isn't any ordinary street judge, because Dredd in the comic books is actually, obviously well respected. He's well known, isn't he, as being like the toughest and the harshest judge out there. He is the law.
I'm the law.
Yeah, I am the law. He is, he's kind of like the biggest badass out there when it comes to the judges, and obviously these guys, his reputation precedes him, and these guys ask for like 1 million credits off Mama. So these corrupt judges come in, and they've got the uniform on and all this kind of stuff, and he comes up against one of them. I think he's called Chan. Is it Chan? Something like that. And he has a few one-liners in this, Dredd. He has a bit of a sardonic, dry sense of humour. It's he's kicking his ass, and he's got him up against the wall, and he's choking Dredd, and he's like, "Choke on this, Dredd," and then he gets himself free, and he's got his gun in his hand, and he twats him right in the fucking throat, and just kind of like, just mashes his windpipe completely, and he's like, "Choke on that," and then just walks off. And he should have picked up his ammo at that point, though. That's what I thought when I watched that last night. I was like, you're running low on ammo, so just fucking take his magazines off him at that point.
Well, he couldn't at that point, because the other two just rolled. The other 2 officers.
No, there was a little bit of time. There was enough time for him to get away, and then because the guy's like on his feet, and then he drops to his knees, and then drops down on the grid, and that's when the other 2 judges see him. They're like, "Oh shit."
It takes the other judges ammo into there on when he kills him.
Yeah. Well, he cycles through his weapon, and he manages to have, like, I think it's 1 round of high explosive left, and he shoots another judge through the head, and his head just fucking explodes.
Oh, that's brilliant. That was it's him with a shotgun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got a shotgun as his weapon.
Yeah, but then Dredd gets shot off Lex, who's the last surviving judge, because Anderson takes out the other female judge, doesn't she?
Oh,
yeah. Because she's like, oh, she'll see me and she'll hesitate, but she doesn't know that she's a psychic. So she sees her, and immediately Anderson fucking realizes that, this is bad judge, and she just shoots her straight away. Because that's also something that they do pretty nicely throughout the course of the film. You see the evolution of Anderson go from a rookie to being kind of like a hardened judge by the end of the film.
Yeah, there's a scene.
Even though she doesn't want it, because go on, what were you going to say?
And I said there's a scene in there where the prisoner, because later on in the film as well, Mama, they catch the rookie.
Yeah.
And they've got the rookie tied up, and Anderson's tied up there, and the prisoner who did the skinning, we think we did the skinning at the start of the film.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a gun, and he's gonna shoot her, but Anderson.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't use the lawgiver, can you? because it's like fingerprints.
Yeah, it's DNA coded to the individual judge. Yeah.
So he tries to use it, and it just blows his arm off, basically, or his hand off.
Yeah, very similar to what happens to Donald Logue's character in Blade when he gets Blade's sword, and he tries using Blade's sword, and he's got those spikes in there that kind of zip out of the handle of the sword and just kind of explodes his hand in that as well.
Yeah. And anyway, she breaks out of the room she's in, and she does two guys standing guard at the door. So she creeps up behind them. She's has a bit of a fisticuff with one of them, knocks one of them down, and she goes to the other one close up, and he puts a gun under his chin and shoots, and you see his face just blow up. Yeah.
Well, it goes, like I say, it goes back to like at the start of the film. There's that little interaction between when they're first going in. Dredd turns to Anderson. He's like, "Are you ready, rookie?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And he's kind of like, "You don't look ready." And she's like, "No, it's just adrenaline. I'm ready." And then you have that moment where she kind of like hesitates on shooting that guy when, like you mentioned before, the sentence. He tried killing a street judge. The sentence is death, and she kind of hesitates, and then she realizes it's that woman's husband and that kid father. And then by the end of it, after she's been captured and then she escapes, there's no hesitation there. She's pulling the trigger first, kind of thing.
Yeah. She doesn't have a helmet on, though, does she, as well? I've noticed.
She doesn't, but she said she. Because again, when he's at the start of the film, where he's like, "Are you ready for this?" and she's like, "Yeah." He mentions to her, he's like, "Why haven't you got your helmet on?" She's like, "It interferes with my abilities."
Yeah, my powers. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he just has that one line where he's like, "I think a bullet would interfere a little bit more." But yeah, going towards the end of the film, after she rescues Dredd from Lex and she shoots Lex in the back, the callback's there. He's like, "Are you ready?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And he the callback is, this time Dredd says to her, "Yeah, you look ready." Yeah. So she's obviously gone through some shit. It's a pretty quick, kind of arc from going from being this kind of like naive rookie judge who kind of is hesitant to pull the trigger to actually, no, I need to defend myself here. I'm going to be the.
Yeah, because you get the impression of that they're not in there for that long in the building. It's not like an overnight job, is it? It's more like maybe they're stuck there for a good few hours.
Well,
you don't see them ever like sleeping, do you? Anything,
Well, I think it takes place over because they go in at daytime on one day, and then after MaMa destroys that sector with that section of balcony
with the machine guns,
with the machine gun, they go out. They kind of run outside onto the. It's like a side.
It's like skateboarding.
Skate park kind of thing, which is external to the building. They escape out there, and it's nighttime there where they see the kids, isn't it? And then in the morning when they actually get out, it's kind of dawn.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's kind of evolved over the course of maybe 12 hours.
Yeah. Depending on what time they went in there. Yeah,
there is a passage of time there, but she learns everything she needs to know during those couple of hours, doesn't she? Because, you have that scene where Dredd's got Kay up against the wall and he's kind of like beating the shit out of him, and he's like, there's something not right about this. MaMa is trying very hard to keep you from leaving this building. So he starts beating the shit out of him to try and get the truth out of him, and then she does her psychic shit and kind of, goes into his mind and extracts the information out of him that way.
In that scene, don't we see MaMa bite his dick off?
Yeah, that's right, because he's like, "Oh, you're in my head now." And then he mentally undresses Anderson, doesn't he? That shot where you see her from behind where she takes like a judge's uniform off, and then there's the next scene where she's on her knees in front of him and he's just pulling her head towards him, and then next thing you know,
she's behind him.
Yeah, she's behind him and she's like, "Yeah, I can play mind games too," and he looks down and starts screaming because MaMa's just bit his dick off in his mind kind of thing. So yeah.
And he pisses his pants, doesn't he, as well?
He does, yeah. So she just fucking freaks him out because like they set it up like, "Oh, if you're coming into my mind, I can freak you the fuck out." She sees something which kind of concerns her, but she brushes it away, and then next thing she flips the tables completely on him and just starts fucking with him completely because she's a psychic at the end of the day. It's her powers, isn't it?
Yeah. Very much like you said, Professor X. Would you Xavier?
Yeah. She just turns it completely. So I like that. I like, just subverting the expectation there and, giving her control of it all the way. Because you feel like, oh, he's going to get the upper hand, and then you realise, actually, no, she's in control of this all the way. She's in control of this. And it's just kind of like a hardening of her character. She's kind of like coming into her own at that point, which I really liked. So, yeah. And then by the end of it, she's kind of like, she really doesn't give a shit if she passes the assessment or not. Because she lets Donald Gleason's character go when she realises that he's actually a victim. They come across him, and he's kind of like hiding, and Dredd is ready to actually dispense his justice, and she's like, no, get out of here. Because she sees the flashback to where he had his eyes kind of like thumbed out, and the bit where Mama's got the knife to his belly, forcing him into all of these things that she's making him do, and she realises that this guy's just caught in the turf war in the building. He's not a willing accomplice like Kay is and the rest of the henchmen. He's just been forced into this situation, and it goes back to like the 1995 Judge Dredd with Stallone. Like you've got I can't believe I'm bringing him up, but you've got Rob Schneider's character, haven't you? And you've got that scene where he's just been released out of prison, and he's been transported to his apartment block. And it just so happens that his apartment block is in the middle of like a turf war inside, and he gets caught up in that, and he chooses to hide in one of like the food vendor bots. So he kind of gets, he's a techie guy, so he gets underneath it, and he's hidden inside of it. Anyway, after Stallone's Dredd comes in and ends the turf war, he sees this robot, and he realises that it's been tampered with. So he pulls Rob Schneider out of it. And he's like, you're going back in. He sentences him for tampering with the robot. He's like, oh, that's destruction of property or whatever. So you're going straight back to jail. And he's like, well, what was I supposed? I've just been released from prison. What was I supposed to do? And he's like, well, you could have jumped out of a window. So that's the hard-edged kind of like version of Judge Dredd that is in the comic books, and they kind of hinted at in that film. And this version of Dredd is not quite that hard-arsed, because he says to her, why have you let him go? He's a perp. And she's like, no, he's not a perp, he's a victim. She said, either way, I failed when I lost my weapon, because Dredd says, if you lose your weapon, it's an instant fail on the assessment. So she's just like, whatever, I've already failed. I'm not going to be a judge. I don't want to be a judge. I've already failed because I lost my weapon. So,
but right at the end of the film, when he's confronted by a superior Dredd, she said, how did she get on, Anderson? And he said,
she's a pass, and there's some pretty cool theories, because that is not what Dredd would have done. Dredd is very kind of like black and white from my understanding with the law. So, if she was a fail, she's a fail. She lost her weapon. But there's a couple of theories out there. One of the theories that I quite like is that Dredd actually realises that her primary weapon isn't the lawgiver, it's her psionic abilities. And the fact that she lost her weapon, she then went and actually found another weapon, armed herself, and carried on, and completed the objective. So
she used a special power, didn't she, to help her.
Because
using the gun, really.
Because really speaking, he shouldn't have passed her. If you're going off that, she lost a weapon. She lost a weapon, and she let a perp go, but she justified it, and she still continued on, and she told him to go fuck himself at the end of the day. She was like, I don't give a shit. Assess me all you want. This is what I'm doing. Until the assessment's over, I've dispensed justice how I see fit. So, it's interesting, because it leaves that kind of like grey area. Is Dredd, is he black and white, or is there a little bit of a shade of grey in this version of Dredd? You don't really, it doesn't answer it one way or another. All you know is that he passes her. You don't know why he passes her, but he does pass her when he shouldn't have. And
it's probably a shade of grey in this one, I think.
Yeah. So I do like that. And hopefully that would have been what they would have explored in the next one, because Alex Garland wrote and allegedly may have directed Dredd. It is credited as being directed by Pete Travis, who I don't really know much about. I know he directed a few episodes of The Bill, Cold Feet, and mainly TV work. But he apparently may or may not have been kicked off the production of Dredd. Karl Urban has gone on record as saying that Alex Garland actually directed Dredd.
Okay.
Yeah, so something happened behind the scenes with this, but no one seems to really know. Yeah, but that might explain why there's no kind of like director's commentary on the discs. Because I was like, I'm gonna go back and listen to the commentary, and then I realised, oh shit, there isn't really a commentary, so I had to dig elsewhere for bits of information on the film. But Alex Garland is I've spoken about Alex Garland before. He's written and directed some of my favourite films. 28 Days Later, Sunshine.
Yeah, good film.
Yeah, 28 Weeks Later. Then this, Ex Machina, and most recently Annihilation. So he's he's definitely going places, this guy. He's not doing much, but what he does do seems to be quality. And if it is true that he did direct big portions of Dredd, then it's one of those. I think where was I going with that? I don't know. Anyway,
yeah. So to sum it up, I think with the film, because I messaged you tonight, and it's basically a futuristic Die Hard. Adding it up is
kind of is. Yeah.
Judge Dredd. Dredd himself is Bruce Willis, but it's not been the best on. It's set in a tiller block, hence Nakatomi Plaza from Die Hard. Yeah, and you've got Mama. She's more like the.
Is she the Hans Gruber?
Hans Gruber, you say, yeah. Well, Bruce Willis never faced a female villain, has he? I don't think in the Die Hard films.
No, not yet. But now that you've said that, someone,
probably. Oh yeah. Let's do that. We'll do that for the film. Actually.
If it happens in one of the next upcoming Die Hard films, if there is any more, if it's a female villain, we're taking credit for that.
Yeah.
100% we're taking credit for that. Yeah. So
I wonder if Bruce Willis is one of our subscribers.
You never know.
You never know. But yeah, that's it's basically a futuristic version of Die Hard. So
yeah.
So if you're a fan of Die Hard, just go and check out Judge Dredd. Dredd.
Definitely. Yeah. Really underrated film. Flew under the radar. Was marketed terribly. Really was marketed terribly. And deserves a lot more attention than what it got on release. And I think, like I said before, the fact that they predominantly released it in cinemas in 3D, that didn't help,
it should give us.
There should have been an option, because, like I said, there was not a 2D screening at my local cinema at all. It was all 3D. And I mean, it's one of those, if you have vision problems, or if you only have, let's take it to the extreme, if you only got one eye or something like that, you're
limited. Yeah.
You're very limited. You can't go and watch something.
And you think as well, though, at the time in 2012, I mean, what was the price of seeing a 3D film at the cinema? Because it must have been like 13, 14 quid or something like that. Because when the prices come down a little bit, I think now, but back then when they was pushing it, the price might have affected a few people as well, made the decision as well. People thought, it's 3D, it's going to cost, 13 quid? I'll go and watch whatever for 6 quid or something.
Yeah. It was a couple of quid more. I mean, back then it didn't really affect me too much because I had my cinema card. But even so, it's one of them. It's if you're just like a general punter going to watch a film, if the choice is between watching something in 2D or 3D, knowing 3D could cost you a $5 or more, you're probably not going to want to watch that unless you're a really big fan of 3D. But this isn't, for me, the way that this film was marketed. This was not the next Avatar. You're not going to go and watch this on IMAX in 3D.
No way.
You know what I mean? It might be something that you might go and watch, give it a chance. 3D, I'd rather watch this in 2D. Yeah. It's not a tentpole film where it's absolutely the next thing that you have to see in 3D, blah, 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 blah. It's just not that type of film. So,
Yeah, I think it's right. It should have come out in 2D at the cinema with the option of 3D. And then when you got the Blu-ray, like they've done with the Blu-ray release, they got you the option of 3D.
Yeah, they're both on there.
And 2D, yeah. So that's the thing in it,
I mean, like I say, I do like certain elements of the 3D effects in this film. It doesn't bug me in the way that, you know, a lot of 3D films do, because it was shot with 3D in mind. It was shot with 3D cameras. It wasn't post-converted. It was done the right way. But inherently, there are moments of the film where it's dark, and, you know, I really needed to ramp up the brightness on my projector last night for it. And that kind of bugged me. It's funny, I had to ramp up the brightness on the projector and fucking turn the sound right down, because I forgot how aggressively kind of like loud this film is at some points. Like, you know, the music is kind of... That was another film I mentioned before. The music is kind of like John Carpenter-esque with some of the themes.
Yeah, correct.
I kind of enjoyed that, and it kind of... It has the music and the sound design has a momentum to it. It keeps the film moving. A kind of it makes it feel like, you know, this sense of forward motion to the film. It's always driving forward, you know, throughout it. And it's only a short film. It's only like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not a long film.
So it doesn't outstay its welcome, but it always feels like it's moving forward. You know, there's not much kind of like downtime in this film, and a lot of that is to the kind of the atmospheric music and the sound design to it. It always feels like it's just, you know, almost like a locomotive. It's moving forward at all times, and I kind of like I like that. It gives it a sense of energy, and you know, yeah, just good overall. Really good.
What we've got touched on as well, like Mama's death at the end. Do you know what the start of the film where they chuck the Mama's clan throws off 3 bodies? Use slow motion drug. Skins them and chucks them over the off like from the top of the tower block, and they drop them in the street below. It's like a fire into it kind of thing at the bottom of the land. At the end of the film, basically Dredd just returns the favour to Mama. He shoots her first. So she's like half and half kind of thing. She's gonna.
Well, he shoots her because she puts when he gets up to like her tower block. She's like, "Well, what are you gonna do now? This entire floor's rigged with explosives, which if it goes off, it's gonna take out the top 50 floors." And she's put this little device onto her wrist, which will trigger it if her heart stops beating. So he's like, "Okay, well, fuck it. I'll just shoot you in the abdomen, let you bleed out." And then he grabs her, and he's like, "So." Do you think this is going to go through 100 floors of concrete? What's the range like on this thing? Let's try 200 floors, shall we? And he just fucking chucks her out of a window. He gives her a hit of slow-mo first. He reads her, you know, his judgment. And he's like, "Have you got anything to say?" She doesn't say anything. He's like, "Defense noted," and just fucking chucks her out of a window.
Glass and stuff.
And we go into like another slow-mo scene, and you've got all the glass coming, you know, out in 3D, and you know it's quite a cool little shot.
Yeah, and it kind of speeds up as well in some scenes. And some shots it's going really fast. She's moving fast, like she's falling, and it goes really slow. See the face, and she's reaching out because she sees she's gonna hit the bottom.
Yeah.
For the, and then she just.
And then she lands on her face, and then like all the blood just splatters out, doesn't it? Yeah. But it's one of those. It's kind of like. By giving her a shot of the slow-mo in the same way that she did with the guys that she skinned, like because slow-mo slows everything down, that would exacerbate your sense of falling. So I mean, the idea of falling to your death must be a horrible one, because you know you fall off a building, you're aware of, you know, however many feet you're falling down, that this is your end, you know what I mean, and this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt when you get down to the bottom, kind of thing. So that sense of fear would obviously, you know, be so intense as you're falling that it must be a horrible feeling. But then to be hit with a shot of slow-mo, which slows everything, so your perception of time slows right down. So that sense of falling would be 10 times greater, because you, in your mind, you're falling for that much longer. So imagine how much you would be bricking it on that fall down.
Yeah, because it would say it might take you 10 seconds to get to the bottom, where in her mind it's taking 10 minutes.
But in your mind it's taking 10 minutes, exactly. And just imagine like what those guys at the start of the film that she had skinned went through, because not only are you falling, but you've got the fucking pain of being flayed alive going down there. You know, and it's taking 10 times longer to meet your end as well. So all of your fucking nerves are absolutely shredded because you've had the skin peeled off your body. You know, so you've got that pain going through your mind, and then you've got the impending doom of fucking hitting the floor as well. It's just so, you know, it might be, oh well, he's getting a high, and you know he's sending her out on a high, but it's like no. This is in effect as it's almost torture, isn't it? If you think about it. So
I think he knew that, though, didn't he, Dredd? So it's a bit of payback for it.
Yeah. Just I'm going to be cruel at you. I'm gonna sentence you to death. It's what you deserve because of everything that you've done to the people in here. So yeah, no mercy whatsoever. So I like that. I like that fucking hard edge to him. Yeah, underrated. Like we say, underrated film. It really deserves more than what it got. I'd absolutely love to see a sequel to it. I don't think we'll get a sequel to it. I'm hopeful that we may get
TV series.
Maybe a mini-series out of it. Yeah, I'd like to see
it'd be nice to have
a mini-series.
Up on Netflix or something. Even, I mean, get Karl Urban back in. You said he's been on the base.
Well, he's open to it. He liked playing the character, even though he struggled with the voice because he was doing his best kind of Clint Eastwood voice, Dirty Harry-wise.
I thought he did a good job, actually. Yeah, I mean, I prefer him playing Dredd than Stallone.
I didn't think he'd be a good fit because, he doesn't have that kind of strong jawline that you would think you would need to fit out the bottom of the helmet.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't matter. He got the character right. In the same way as in the Star Trek films, he played the character of Bones, taken over from DeForest Kelley. And he didn't do an impression of DeForest Kelley as much as he kind of captured what was Bones. Do you know what I mean? He got the essence of the character right, and he had certain mannerisms and stuff, but he wasn't doing a caricature or an impersonation of DeForest Kelley. He was just kind of getting the nuances of Bones from that, and I feel like he gets the essence of the character in this. He doesn't take his helmet off.
Yeah,
that's one of the things about it, but. It's just his body language and the way he carries himself in the film. It fits the way that I would see Dredd move in the comics, like in my mind's eye kind of thing. It kind of fits.
Yeah, you get it all. You get it all spot on.
Yeah, and I like as well that because he doesn't take his helmet off. There's certain scenes where he's talking to characters in the film, and the film, instead of the camera, instead of it being focused on his eye line, which is obscured by his helmet, it's focused on his mouth because that's the focal point for him. And I really liked when they did that. It just shows that is the center of the character for him, and he manages to get so much kind of like emotion and kind of expression just. From the nose down, it's actually exactly what he's thinking at all times, which is really weird because you're taking the eyes away from an actor, which any good actor will tell you that you need the eyes to actually sell emotion and thought and whatever's going on in a performance, and to take that away, it's like you're leaving him with maybe 10% of what he needs to actually portray.
He portrayed it well.
He needs to, but. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so yeah, go and check it out.
Yeah, I echo that as well.
Check it out.
Definitely check it
out. Yeah, I'm kind of out of stuff. I'm kind of out of stuff. I'm knackered. I need the toilet, and I think before the dog starts fucking bringing the house down again, we should wrap things up. So, thanks for listening, guys. We do have a few more titles kind of in the pipeline. Hopefully a few more guests coming up soon as well.
Yeah, and
yes, this is your
pick. So I'm going to go for the...
Which I'm a bit pissed off at you about, really, because this is something that I wanted to pick, but...
I got in there. Well, we're covering it anyway.
You got it in there, so it doesn't really matter.
It's the first of the Cornetto trilogy we're going to cover, so we're going to cover Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, so looking forward to... I mean, I watched this a few weeks when I was going on this Simon Pegg, Nick Frost marathon of movies, so I'm going to obviously dig it back out and watch it again for the in preparation for the podcast.
Yeah, I think we're not spoiling anything by saying this, but I think we're gonna rattle through the Cornetto trilogy, aren't we? We're gonna.
Yeah. We've mentioned anyway. I've mentioned it to you, Anna. That my next 3 picks are going to be Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then World's End. Get them boxed off.
We'll get those boxed off. We will intersperse them with some of my picks in the middle, and like I say, we have got a couple of guest slots lined up as well. So, Shaun of the Dead. Looking forward to it. It's been a minute since I've seen it last. I've probably seen Hot Fuzz more recently than Shaun of the Dead, but I do want to go back and revisit this, and I think I've still got Spaced on DVD, so I might actually go back and revisit Spaced.
Yeah, I've dubbed that out on DVD as well, the box set as well, so I've dubbed that out.
Yeah, I think it's on sale on iTunes as well. I think it's only $5. So I might, if it's HD, I might spring for that, because I was only thinking a couple of weeks ago that I wanted a HD version of Spaced, so I could go back and watch. I don't think it's been released on Blu-ray, has it?
No, I don't think. You can just get the DVD version. But I you can get it on iTunes. That's HD in iTunes, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be like a good little thing to cover before we get into Shaun of the Dead, perhaps. Maybe
looking forward
20
to
minutes
that.
or something covering that, and then get into Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to Shaun.
That's what's next up for us, guys.
Lots of trivia on Shaun of Dead as well. Lots of references to get into with
There'll be an element with that.
Yeah. So if you haven't already seen it, go and track it down. Get a copy of Shaun of the Dead. If you have seen Shaun of the Dead, fucking watch it again, and then come back and listen to our podcast on it, which will be coming out in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, I'll get that out on time. Again, I apologise for this being a little bit late, but we gave you 4 hours of Endgame. So. 4 hours takes a lot out of you. It really does. And I've still got stuff to say. I was saying to Chris Manning when I on WhatsApp chat, when I think it was in our group actually, but when I watched it the last time, we start picking up on other little things, like more the subtleties. Like there's a term in physics called the arrow of time. Which describes the fact that time moves in one direction. It doesn't go backwards on itself, but time goes forward. So you've got the past, you've got the present, then you've got the future, and that is, described as the arrow of time. And the opening scene with Hawkeye, you have his daughter firing an arrow at a target. Now, in cinematic terms, to show progression, usually something will go from left to right. It's the same as if you're reading a book. Sentences start on the left, and you read it across to the right. That is the perceived correct way of something, moving forward in cinematic language. Something on screen going from left to right, be it a car, a truck, or whatever. And she is actually firing the arrow backwards. She's firing it from right to left. And that just kind of symbolises a little bit of foreshadowing of the fact of going back through time, which is a big key component of Endgame. So it's little things like that I started picking up on. I was like, shit, I need to fucking go back and do another 17 pages of notes. But I made the decision, no, I'm not going to go back and watch it. I think 3 times is probably enough at the cinema. Maybe I might go back and watch it a full time before it comes to an end. Maybe, but I'm happy at the moment. But if I did go back and watch it a full time, I'd probably get into all of those nitpicky things, because I also noticed the the bit where they all put their fists into a circle before they go through the accelerator.
Yeah.
And they've all got that white suit on, but they've got red gloves, tops to the gloves. Mm-hmm. Well, that foreshadows, like the circle foreshadows, that's the very first arc reactor. If you go back and look at that, all of the segments on the arc reactor are red, and obviously it's in a circle. Yeah. So that proved Tony Stark has a heart kind of thing. Yeah. So there's all that kind of symbolism going on there as well on that level. So I'm sure
that's what you've noticed after repeated viewings, when you.
Yeah. Well,
you don't pick it up.
When you go back and you watch it again, you start picking up on stuff like that. So, yeah.
Have you seen Howard Duck in there? Yeah. Have you actually seen him?
I was looking out for him because I saw on one of the videos on YouTube that he actually comes through the portal wielding a gun and actually fights with Thanos.
Yeah, isn't it with the what they call now from Guardians of the Galaxies?
I thought he was with Valkyrie in that.
No, somebody told me he was, because I've only seen him on a picture. I've not actually seen it.
Oh, is he?
Is it the Ravengers? What they call it? Guardians?
Oh, is he with the Ravengers?
Yeah, somebody.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, that would make sense then. Yeah. There's just so many fucking people to see in that, though, isn't there? So it's one of the. But you do, yeah. If you're looking for him, you just see him with a gun, and he kind of cocks the gun. So it's like, yeah. So you never know. We might get in phase 5 or 6. You might get a Howard the Duck.
Yeah, or the TV series.
Mm-hmm.
Where did they go that way?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really want to see a Howard the Duck movie. I've seen the Howard the Duck movie, and it, Yeah.
What's
Leah Thompson shagging a duck is not really my idea of.
yeah.
Okay, have you got any shout outs or thanks to give?
Not really, just thanks to everybody who's downloaded the podcast previously and currently. We've had a few. Well, it's weird, isn't it? Because we remember this before. We went through a few days where the downloads were pretty low, and then all of a sudden they just spiked up to like 20 in a day, something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but for us it is. It's good numbers to get like 20 odd downloads on a day.
Yeah,
So
I think it was across 2 days. I think we had over 40 in 2 days.
Yeah, so we're recording this on Wednesday, and on the Tuesday and Monday before it, we've had like 40 downloads in the space of 2 days. So to everyone who's gone back and downloaded our back catalogue, if you're new listeners, thank you very much. If you're regular listeners, again, thank you for sticking with us. Hopefully we'll bring you some good chinwags and blabber and conversations in the coming weeks. And we're just really grateful for anyone who's taken the time to listen to the podcast. And you're great.
Yeah, much appreciated.
But yeah, it is much appreciated. But we'd appreciate it even more if you could if you have enjoyed any of these podcasts, if you could just tell one person about the podcast. We'd love to see the podcast grow and get a few more people listening and interacting with us, sending us emails, comments, whatever.
Leave us a review on iTunes.
Yeah, leave us a review on iTunes, all that good stuff. But spread the word. Just even if you if you've enjoyed one podcast that we've done, if you've enjoyed 1 minute of a podcast, maybe just tell one friend. Got this podcast to listen to. It's just two guys chundering about movies. Nothing special, but give it a listen and it'll help us out. And yeah, leave us a good review on iTunes, please. Thanks. Otherwise, we'll stop doing it. We won't, because it's a good catch up. But yeah, that's it.
Much done, haven't we?
That's it. So stay tuned. Shaun of Dead will be coming in the next couple of weeks, and our next guest, we will reveal that at the end of the next episode. There's a cliffhanger for you, motherfuckers.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, bum bum bum. We've got a guest, but we're not telling you who it is. And it was going to be one film, but it's now
it might change
film,
since though.
Fucking hell, yeah. Don't change your mind anymore. You know who you are if you're listening. I was looking forward to the first film as well, and now you've gone and changed it to a film that I'm not so enthused about. But well, we'll see. Right, that's it. Game over. Thanks, guys. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.